Chapter 3196. 3196 You're still alive. 3196 You're still alive. You've contributed greatly to our progress. Mr. Lu looked at Feng Wu. Did you really think you could fool the general? He didn't punish you because Elder Hellion became a spiritual saint. Feng Wu stuck out her tongue at him. Her godfather adored her. So what? Those people were only jealous of her. Just then they heard a voice. Hellion Li, come in. The general wanted to see him, and Elder Hellion was a little nervous. Feng Wu patted him on the shoulder. The general is a very amicable man. Elder Hellion wanted to laugh at her. According to Mr. Lu, Imperial College was now short of an ordinary elder, and would probably send someone here. Are you familiar with Yang Jihu? An idea seemed to strike Mr. Lu. Feng Wu said, he's pretty good. Mr. Lu nodded. The colonels have made some significant progress this time. If Yang Jihu is still a level 9 spiritual king, I don't think he can lead the colonels anymore. Feng Wu frowned. Is that an order? Is it the final decision? Mr. Lu said, yes it is. After that he patted Feng Wu's head. He'll be replaced by one of the elders. Don't worry. They won't mistreat you. By now, the elders worshipped the ground she walked on. However, Feng Wu couldn't bring herself to see Yang Jihu leave because he was a nice guy. After bidding Elder Hellion farewell, Feng Wu went to the colonel's quarters. As soon as she arrived, she found everybody scattered around the square. Some of them had finished cultivating, and some were still in the process of making their breakthroughs. Wang Zhala opened his eyes to find Feng Wu a few steps away. His eyes lit up. Feng Wu. He ran toward her like a cannonball. Hearing that name, many people opened their eyes. They were all astonished to see her. Feng Wu. She was alive. She was right here. You're alive. Yang Hong was thrilled. He rushed to Feng Wu's side, ran around her, and asked in excitement, you really are alive? Feng Wu rubbed her temple. What else could she be? Dead. Why can't I be alive? Feng Wu asked in resignation. But, you know, she had shouted at Elder Dongfang as well as Mr. Su, the schoolmaster of the military academy. How could she come back in one piece after what she had done? Do you own this fortress? Someone actually asked that question. It was Yu Xiu, the first person who had found Feng Wu. A few days ago, he had just thought that she was a delicate-looking girl. Therefore, he couldn't figure out how she could have. Wang Zhala said, I heard from Elder Mei that you specifically invited us to use the liquid. None of the colonels were stupid. The senior colonels were more capable than they were. But why didn't Feng Wu ask for them? It couldn't be because she liked them more. The suggestion must have come from someone high up in the chain of command. Feng Wu nodded. There was still some liquid left, and I didn't want to waste it, so I told you guys to use it. It would be great if you could make some progress. Even if that isn't the case, the liquid can still enhance your physical strength. Chapter 3197. 3197 Young Lord Feng is in trouble. 3197 Young Lord Feng is in trouble. I made 2 breakthroughs. Wang Zhala said solemnly. I'm a level 8 spiritual king now. Feng Wu was surprised. By that much? Wang Zhala nodded solemnly. I was already a peak level 6 spiritual king, and the breakthroughs have saved me years of cultivation. Feng Wu, I owe you one. Yang Hong also nodded solemnly. I'm also a level 8 spiritual king now. Feng Wu, I'll return this favor. The other colonels all earnestly thanked Feng Wu. They knew they had used the resources that even the military academy hadn't gotten a chance to use. That liquid was supposed to be saved for the elders. It was all thanks to Feng Wu. She awkwardly scratched her head, not used to everyone's solemn tones. She just hadn't wanted to waste the all-purpose transformation liquid on the military academy's elders. Seeing how earnest the others were, even Feng Wu, who had seen many strange things, felt abashed. She was good at getting back at people who mistreated her. When other people were kind to her, she felt rather shy. You're holding your stomach. Are you hurt? One of the girls asked. This is Jiang Li. She did all your paperwork when you came to the colonel's quarters. Wang Zhala told Feng Wu with a smile. Feng Wu nodded at Jiang Li and said earnestly, I'm hungry. The others suddenly recalled how Feng Wu had eaten all the essence crystals in the colonel's quarters. Feng Wu had repaid them dozens or hundreds of times over. Some of the colonels here had complained about Feng Wu using too many essence crystals. They all apologized to her now and asked for her forgiveness. They wanted to take her to the restaurant and thank her properly. Feng Wu was a little flustered. She felt rather awkward when the others thanked her like this. As for the meal, she decided to turn it down. Just then, someone rushed into the square. She didn't know the person, but the other colonels did. That's Mu Nan, Wang Jiala told Feng Wu. He went to the Dayless Woods with young Lord Feng on a mission. Why is he back alone? Has something gone wrong with his team? Young Lord Feng. Feng's son. Feng Wu grew uneasy. Mu Nan ran into the crowd, holding his stomach. He panted and shouted, Quickly! We must go to the arena on the border. Young Lord Feng is fighting with them. Huh! Feng Wu immediately dashed off. She rolled up her sleeves and was ready for a big battle. The colonels were thrilled to see this. Wang Jiala raised his spear. Guys, it's time to show our strength. Let's go. Everybody was as excited as he was. They had just made breakthroughs, and someone was here to challenge them. What a great chance to test out their new abilities. Let's go, everybody. It's only the intermediate arena, but even if it's the senior arena, we still won't back off. Let's go. Young Lord Feng might be in danger. Everybody rushed off at top speed. Chapter 3198, 3198 Hertz. 3198 Hertz. However, they were dumbfounded when they got there. Those people didn't seem to be fighting. They saw that the senior arena was surrounded by a large group of people. Leading the colonels, Feng Wu squeezed through the crowd. Excuse us. They were all colonels, and the spectators were mostly lieutenant colonels or majors, who backed away when they saw Feng Wu and her colleagues. Here in Peace Grassland, the cultivators had a strict hierarchy. That was why everybody was so astonished when they heard the way Feng Wu spoke to Elder Dongfang and Mr. Su. Feng Wu ran to the front of the team, and soon saw Feng Sun and Xianyi. What? Something didn't seem right. The two sides in the arena didn't seem to be fighting. There were 2 tables in the arena, and each had a giant plate on it. On each plate was an entire roast sheep. The skin was golden and crisp, and the aroma filled the air. That wasn't the strangest thing. What surprised Feng Wu was when she saw one man from the Zhenhua Empire and one man from the Dongxing Kingdom sitting at each table. What was? Feng Wu was perplexed. She didn't know who those people were, but neither one of them was Feng Sun. She searched the audience and soon spotted Feng Sun. When she found Feng Sun, he was lying on a soft padded chair. His face was injured, and blood was trickling down his fair cheek. His hand was on his stomach, and he kept whining. The injury was obviously quite severe. He sucked in a pained breath and waved his fist. We can't lose this time. Those 5 weapons all have inscriptions. I don't care what it takes. We must win. Feng Wu stood behind him and patted him on the shoulder. Feng Sun didn't even look up. Which bastard is it? Touching my shoulder. He looked over his shoulder and saw Feng Wu. Ah! He involuntarily tried to cover his face. The injury on his face was pretty bad, and he didn't want to scare his sister. Feng Wu glared at him. Put your hands down. I've seen everything. Feng Sun pouted and looked up at his fierce little sister. Feng Wu said sternly, Put your hands away. She couldn't understand why the son of Northern Feng General didn't care a little bit more about his appearance. There was a deep cut on his cheek, but he was still bantering with others. Feng Wu took a bottle of semi-divine coagulant ointment out of her storage space and carefully applied it on Feng Sun's wound with a cotton swab. The ointment was very effective and immediately stopped the bleeding. She still couldn't stand seeing such a scar on his handsome face. What happened? Feng Wu pressed the edge of the wound when she put a clean cloth on it. SSSS. Feng Sun frowned and sucked in a breath. That hurts. Feng Wu glanced at him. So it does hurt. Why didn't you treat your wound then, but let it bleed? Feng Sun looked at her like a scared puppy. Feng Wu stared at him. Your hand. Feng Sun immediately put his hand on hers. Feng Wu focused on checking his pulse. Meanwhile, around them. Chapter 3199. 3199 My sister. 3199 My sister. Meanwhile, everybody around them was staring at Feng Wu in astonishment, especially her fellow colonels. Feng Wu. Young Lord Feng. Were they close? It seemed to be more than that since their relationship looked a little strange. The colonels knew Feng Sun well. He was as capable as he was arrogant. Not only was he the general's son, he was also the crown prince's good friend. All of that made the colonels afraid of him. Because of his high social status, the others didn't dare approach him. They usually only talked about him in private, but never dared speak to him in person. Only Yan Han was a little more familiar with him. What was going on here? The others had been secretly worried about Feng Wu. Yan Han had been left out when the others went to use the all-purpose transformation liquid. Would Yan Han hold a grudge against Feng Wu because of that? Would Yan Han get Feng Sun to go after Feng Wu? The other colonels thought that would happen, and decided to stay by Feng Wu's side. However, the result was beyond their expectations. Feng Wu. She seemed so close to young Lord Feng. Wang Zhala summoned up his courage and patted Feng Wu on the shoulder. Feng Wu, I didn't know you and young Lord Feng were so close. Feng Wu looked at the hand on her shoulder. So did Feng Sun. Wang Zhala felt uneasy. He did that because he saw Yang Jihu pat Feng Wu on the shoulder before. He immediately put his hand down. Feng Sun looked at Wang Zhala and thought, man, you're very brave. Wang Zhala was dumbfounded and wondered what he had done. Feng Wu had finished checking Feng Sun's pulse. She took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Swallow it. Feng Sun obediently did as he was told. Feng Wu was used to seeing him so obedient, but other people weren't. Wang Zhala was speechless, and so were Yang Hong and Yu Xiao. They all looked at one another, thinking they had gone blind. Wang Zhala's eyes lit up when an idea crossed his mind. So Feng Wu and young Lord Feng were. Feng Sun immediately saw what he was thinking. He had been misunderstood so many times. She's my sister. Feng Sun took Feng Wu's hand and showed her off. My sister. All eyes were on Feng Wu. Wow, the general's daughter. Luckily, not many people dared approach Feng Sun. After the big announcement, no one made any loud noise. Instead, they only sucked in their breaths. OMG, Feng Wu was so well connected. Many things were clear now. Why was she bold enough to criticize Elder Dongfang? Why wouldn't she follow Mr. Su's order? That was because she was the general's daughter. Many people recalled the previous argument between Feng Wu and Han Lu. Back then, they had all been misled by Yan Han, and thought Feng Wu had become a colonel through indecent means. There was nothing indecent. She was the general's daughter. Elder Yan was Yan Han's connection, but Feng Wu's connection was. Everybody stared at Feng Wu, and felt dazed by the frightening news. Chapter 3200 Eating Competition. 3200 Eating Competition. Everybody looked at Feng Wu differently. Feng Wu cast a dirty look at Feng Sun, knowing he had done it on purpose. Feng Sun gloated. So what? He had such a pretty sister. The others couldn't say the same. Why couldn't he show her off? Feng Wu rubbed her temples and couldn't believe how childish Feng Sun was. Just then somebody cried out in surprise. Feng Wu looked in the direction of the arena. The food on the tables was mostly finished. The contestant of the Zhenhua Empire was on the left, and the Dongseng Kingdom's man was on the right. They were having an eating contest. The Zhenhua Empire's contestant had eaten 3 roast sheep, but his opponent was even better. He had eaten 3.5. We only have 5 minutes left, Feng Sun said nervously. Feng Wu asked, what's going on? If that question had come from someone else, Feng Sun wouldn't have had the patience to answer. But Feng Wu was a different story. It's an eating competition, said Feng Sun. We had a conflict with the Dongseng assassins in the Dayless Woods. I won't go into detail. Anyway, we finally decided to settle it with an eating competition. Feng Sun frowned. Those Dongseng Kingdom assassins are so short. Who would have thought they would have the bloodline of giants? After accepting the challenge, they drank some potion and all became giants. Look, they're about 5 meters tall, and some are even 3 meters. They're huge. Feng Sun buried his head in his hands. We didn't know this was going to happen when we made that decision. They tricked us. Feng Wu gave him a strange look. Feng Sun said bitterly, each side has 5 contestants. This is their first giant, but we've sent up 3 people already. Feng Sun pointed at his men. They've all lost. Look at Xian Yi. Right now, Xian Yi, the proud swordsman, was vomiting a few steps away. Feng Wu was speechless. Feng Sun said nervously, we're definitely going to lose. I'm so stupid. How could I agree to their suggestion? They tricked us. I'm so angry. Feng Wu looked at him. Feng Sun said, Xiao Wu, please don't look at me like that. They really tricked me. The Dongseng kingdom is full of bad people. When I'm capable enough, I'll kill all of them. Feng Wu said, I'm pitying an idiot. Feng Sun was speechless, but didn't know what to say. Feng Wu asked, what's this competition about? Feng Sun said, we found a sword grave in the Dayless Woods. There are 5 swords, but we don't know who put them there. I wouldn't be so nervous if they were some other swords, but those have inscriptions on them. Feng Sun said, Xiao Wu, those swords have inscriptions, which can increase the power of an attack by 50%. All 5 of them. They're suitable for peak spiritual kings. None of the 5 members of my team has a sword with inscriptions. Chapter 3201. 3201 Feng Sun's injured stomach. 3201 Feng Sun's injured stomach. You know the financial situation of the Zhenhua Empire. Swords with inscriptions are so rare. Even all the elders don't have one such sword. How can the colonels? We're on our own. Feng Wu had found Feng Sun a sword in the tombs, but that was a while ago, and it wasn't good enough for Feng Sun now. He was no longer using it. Feng Wu said, why didn't you tell me you want such a sword? Feng Sun said, what can I say? You've had your fallen star sword for a long time. I wanted to give you a sword. I didn't even give you a proper gift on your birthday. Feng Sun's voice trailed off. But we're going to lose. He was so frustrated. The girls a few steps away felt sorry when they saw how defeated he was. He was such a handsome and noble man. Why was he in a bad mood? Feng Wu gave Feng Sun a complicated look. She really wanted to maintain her image. If she could, she wanted to look like a lady. Just then, someone in the arena couldn't hold it anymore. He ran to the side of the platform and started vomiting into a wooden bucket. The people of the Zhenhua Empire were all disappointed. We lost again. That's the 3rd one. We only have 2 people left, and they still have 5 giants. How could we agree to this competition? We're definitely going to lose. Who could have known how cunning the Dongseng assassins are? Those shorties somehow became giants. Meanwhile, Babu, the first Dongseng contestant, sneered at the Zhenhua Empire's people and taunted them. Bring it on. Don't you have anyone useful? They're all so weak. Feng Wu took a deep breath and told herself to think about her image. Feng Sun rose to his feet and headed for the platform. We're all so weak. I'll challenge you. Feng Sun clutched his stomach as he walked. Before Feng Wu could do anything, Feng Sun was already on the platform. Feng Wu was astonished. What was he doing? His injury was so severe. His energy channels had been twisted into a ball. Why did he want to do this? As soon as Feng Sun rushed into the arena, everybody cheered for him. That's young Lord Feng. He's the best. He'll win this game. Young Lord Feng won't lose. These people had no idea how badly injured Feng Sun was. Feng Sun, get down from there. Feng Wu frowned. I won't. Feng Sun told Feng Wu, before he stared at Babu. You can eat a lot, can't you? Come on. I'll fight you. Show me what you've got. Feng Sun sat down on the bench and put a foot on it, looking extremely arrogant. Babu laughed when he saw Feng Sun. Young Lord Feng, is it? You're Junli Yuan's buddy. I'll show everyone how useless you are. Feng Wu frowned again. What a presumptuous man. Feng Sun smirked. Do you think I'll lose? I'll crush you. Feng Wu knew that Feng Sun's stomach was injured. Chapter 3202 What a pretty girl. 3202 What a pretty girl. Feng Sun's stomach was injured. What could he possibly eat? He would probably throw up right away. Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun. Listen to me, Feng Sun. Get down from there. Feng Sun shouted, No. He then challenged Babu. Bring it on. Babu said, Do you think I'm afraid of you? You're such a weakling. He then sat down on the chair and waved his hand. Bring me the golden blood cow. On both sides of the platform, people were busy roasting food. At Babu's command, his people brought him a roast golden blood cow. Feng Sun's men were a little slower, but 4 people soon carried a cow onto the stage as well. A golden blood cow was 3 m long, 2 m tall, and weighed over 250 kilograms. Its meat was tender and juicy, but Feng Sun felt his stomach lurch when he looked at the cow. That was a lot. Meanwhile, Babu had ripped off a leg and stuffed it into his mouth. After a few bites, there was only a bone left. Babu had defeated 3 opponents, and Feng Sun was the 4th. Babu chewed the meat as he sneered at Feng Sun. He even took the time to make a comment. What a wuss. Damn it. Feng Sun was furious. He would never surrender to his enemy. Jun Linyuan's best friend. Ha. Babu smirked and ate another leg. Feng Sun was speechless. He wondered how the giant could eat so much. Feng Sun picked up a piece of meat and put it into his mouth, but before he could swallow, he wanted to throw up. His stomach was injured, and the smell of meat made him want to puke. He couldn't swallow a piece of meat, let alone defeat Babu. Feng Sun was filled with guilt and despair. So many people were watching. Feng Sun wasn't worried about being humiliated, but that annoying Babu kept bringing up Jun Linyuan. Feng Sun felt he had let his friend down. He could lose, but he couldn't give up. He forced the meat down his throat. Ouch. He wanted to throw up. No, he couldn't let that happen. He had to keep eating. He didn't feel well, but he had to keep eating. The competition had started. Unless one of them gave up, the competition would continue until the incense stick burned out. The people of the Zhenhua Empire held high hopes for Feng Sun because he was the crown prince's friend. That title gave them a lot of confidence. However, the reality was a little hard to swallow. Young Lord Feng ate so slowly. They didn't dare complain loudly, but deep down they weren't pleased. Feng Wu was worried when she saw the sweat on Feng Wu's forehead, and all the whispered gossip made her furious. Her brother might be a little silly, but he was a lovely person. Although she scolded him all the time, she wouldn't let anyone bully him. Feng Wu glared at Babu and wanted to kill him. Babu sensed her intense gaze and looked at the crowd. Wow. With one look, his eyes lit up. What a pretty girl. She was dainty and exquisite. She seemed to be no more than 14 years old, and stood there with her chin raised. She was from the Zhenhua Empire. Babu couldn't look away from her. He wondered if he crushed the Zhenhua Empire's team. Could he ask for this girl instead? Chapter 3203 Xiao Wu. 3203 Xiao Wu. Babu stared at Feng Wu with twinkling eyes. He was so lost in her beauty that he forgot to eat the roast beef. With the gravy around his mouth, he looked rather gross. Feng Sun seemed to be in a lot of pain, and sweat trickled down his face. He noticed that Babu had suddenly stopped, so he followed the latter's gaze. He was infuriated by what he saw. That giant was drooling at Feng Wu, his dearest sister. How dare he? Feng Sun smashed the bone over Babu's head. What are you looking at? Wipe your mouth. Although Feng Sun was going to lose, he still shouted in an intimidating way, as if he wanted to kill Babu. The cow bone hit Babu in the forehead with a thump, and he finally woke up from his trance-like state. Brushing the bone aside, Babu stared at Feng Sun. I don't want the 5 swords. I want her. Babu openly made that request, and Feng Sun was so furious that he laughed. Holding his stomach, he struggled to his feet, and walked toward Babu with the chair in his hand. Feng Wu rubbed her temple, and didn't know what to do with her silly brother. With a wave of her hand, she extinguished the incense stick with her blade. By then, Feng Wu had reached the stage. Thump! Feng Wu took the chair from Feng Sun, and smashed it over Babu's head. Babu was a very capable man. In the Dayless Woods, he was able to withstand Feng Sun's attack, and after his giant bloodline woke up, he was even stronger than Feng Sun. However, he had been fascinated by Feng Wu and didn't realize that Feng Wu had taken Feng Sun's chair. Feng Sun said, "Xiao Wu, don't stop me." Thump! The chair smashed onto Babu's head, making him dizzy. He didn't know what had happened. The chair had turned into pieces and was scattered all over the ground. Everyone was speechless. They looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. A petite girl like her had just hit Babu, a 2-meter-tall man, and made him bleed. Feng Sun said, "Xiao Wu." Feng Wu glared at him. "You can't even walk. Why do you want to use that chair? Do you have a death wish?" Feng Sun pouted. Feng Wu went on. "Are you a kid? Don't you know your stomach is badly injured? The food can kill you." Feng Sun said, "Well, that's right. Young Lord Feng has a bandage on his face, and he's been holding his stomach. I didn't know he was so severely injured." He joined the competition because he wanted to save the Zhenhua Empire's dignity. He knew he would lose, but he still stepped forward for our empire. I admire young Lord Feng so much. Those people who had criticized Feng Sun all felt rather guilty. Meanwhile, Babu finally realized the girl had hit him on the head. Everybody was watching when that happened, and he couldn't pretend something so humiliating never happened. His 4 giant brothers all stepped forward. They were quintuplets with similar heights and almost identical faces. One could hardly tell them apart. Babu glared at Feng Wu. "You." Chapter 3204. 3204 No one can disrespect His Royal Highness. 3204 No one can disrespect His Royal Highness. Feng Wu was mad at Feng Sun for not taking care of his health. When Babu cut into their argument, Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him. Babu shuddered, intimidated by her murderous look. He couldn't understand it. He was a huge, powerful man. Why did he feel so flustered when the petite girl glared at him? Babu said, "Why are you so mean?" Feng Wu was so angry that she wanted to laugh. This man was actually asking that question after insulting her brother. She cut to the chase. "I'm the 5th member of my team. Let's begin." She then glanced at Wang Zhaola. Wang Zhaola was a little dumbfounded. "What? Chair? Give her a chair." Munan reacted before Wang Zhaola could. "Right." Wang Zhaola immediately carried a soft padded chair onto the stage. It was the one Feng Sun had been sitting on. The previous chair had been smashed into pieces. Feng Wu couldn't eat while standing up, could she? Feng Wu felt frustrated, because she wanted to maintain her image as a graceful lady. But this world kept upsetting things, and stopping her from doing so. Thinking of that, she glared at Babu again. Babu felt so innocent. They sat down and started eating. But no one had any faith in Feng Wu. That woman. A petite girl. She couldn't have a stomach bigger than a bird's. How much could she eat? A competition. That was such a joke. Zhuo Qingwan stood in the crowd and narrowed her eyes. Ever since she arrived at Peace Grassland, she had been overwhelmed with frustration, and Feng Wu was the source of that emotion. It was as if Zhuo Qingwan thought she was the heroine of the story at first, but she then realized she had taken the wrong script, and discovered that she was only in a supporting role. Before she could do anything, Feng Wu started making progress. By now, Zhuo Qingwan couldn't tell what Feng Wu's cultivation level was. Just by watching the way that Feng Wu smashed the chair over Babu's head, Zhuo Qingwan knew she was very capable. Zhuo Qingwan took a deep breath, telling herself that she was still the heroine, and Feng Wu was the supporting role. Her advantage must be temporary. Yes. Zhuo Qingwan stared at Feng Wu, her eyes flickering maliciously. Babu stared at Feng Wu. "What did you say?" Feng Wu said solemnly, "I'll compete with you." Babu said, "No, I won't." Feng Wu said, "So you're too afraid to fight me?" Babu blushed. "Of course not. I just don't want to see you cry after you lose." Feng Wu grinned. "I won't be the one who's crying." Feng Sun tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve. "Don't do this. We'll admit our defeat. Leave the stage." He thought he knew how much Feng Wu could eat. The girl could eat more than a bird, but not by too much. Usually, a bowl of rice would suffice. Fengwu didn't like the sound of that. She was ready to abandon her image. Why wouldn't these people believe her? She could eat a tiger, but they all thought she was as delicate as a bird. It wasn't just their opponents. Even her own side thought that way. Fengwu said, "The Zhenghua Empire must win today. I don't mind destroying other people's reputation, but it can't happen to Jun Linyuan." She turned to Babu. "If you lose, kneel here and kowtow 10 times in the direction where Jun Linyuan is. I'm not asking. I'm telling you." Chapter 3205, 3205 Second Round. 3205 Second Round. Babu wanted to say something to Fengwu, but before he could, the girl had already walked to her table. Babu was speechless and wondered if he was seeing things. The girl gave him the feeling that he was a servant, and she was a princess. He was supposed to be a terrifying fighter. Babu rubbed his swollen forehead and felt dizzy. He wondered if there was something wrong with his senses. Meanwhile, Fengwu took a knife and a fork out of nowhere. Everybody was shocked when they saw this. "You've got to be kidding me. A knife and a fork. How long will that take?" Babu felt sorry for defeating the girl like this. The competition started while everybody watched in bewilderment. As Babu chewed on a bone, he wondered, should I slow down and wait for her? If I finish too soon and she only eats a little, she'll look ridiculous. Babu didn't know why he was so considerate when Fengwu had scolded him. He stole a glance at Fengwu. One look and Babu was shocked. Half of the cow was gone. He looked at the crowd and saw that everybody was watching Fengwu in amazement. Their eyes had widened, and their mouths were agape. The girl ate gracefully, but she wasn't slow. Another leg was gone. Whoosh! Another leg was gone. Babu was speechless. The process only took a few seconds, and he couldn't believe his eyes. He rubbed his eyes and kept watching Fengwu. The meat on the cow's shoulder, back, and chest disappeared one part after another. Before Babu knew what was going on, Fengwu had eaten all the meat. When Babu looked at the table again, what was left of the cow was only its skeleton. Babu was speechless. At that moment, "Time's up. The incense stick is finished." The people of the Zhenghua Empire had been keeping their eye on the incense stick. They won. Fengwu had won. Fengsun couldn't believe it. His petite sister had just eaten an entire cow. An entire cow. Fengsun wasn't the only one who was astonished. Xianyi's face was twisted. Other people reacted even more strongly. Fengwu had eaten an entire cow and defeated Babu. "We won a round. That's a miracle. Fengwu is a miracle maker." Everybody was thrilled. "I'm so glad to have Fengwu. This way, we won't lose all 5 rounds." Wang Zhala wiped away his cold sweat. "If that were the case, we would be so humiliated." Fengsun nodded to himself, still recovering from the shock. His sister could indeed make miracles happen. She had actually won the round. Babu went off the stage, still feeling dizzy. He was the 5th member of his team. The 4th was Babe. Babe patted Babu on the shoulder. "You lost because you ate too much in the first round. Don't worry about it. I'll take it from here." Babu nodded. Babe walked onto the stage and sneered at Fengwu in a provoking way. Chapter 3206, 3206 Swallow a Tiger. 3206 Swallow a Tiger. Babe walked onto the stage and sneered at Fengwu in a provoking way. "Babu let you win, but I won't." "Let me win." Fengwu glanced at him. "I won't let you win either." Babe almost laughed. The girl actually thought she could defeat him. What a joke. Babe wasn't alone. His brothers and the Dongseng assassins all laughed and made mocking sounds. The people of the Zhenghua Empire were displeased. They wanted to refute, but didn't feel confident enough. Fengwu had a big appetite, but the other side had 3 more giants after Babe. The thought filled them with despair. Wang Zhala was nervous. He had seen how much Fengwu could eat, but he wasn't sure how much longer she could last. Fengwu looked around. "What are we eating next?" Just then, a 3-eyed tiger was carried onto the stage. Everyone was dumbfounded. That tiger was 3 meters tall, over 3 meters long, and weighed at least a ton. It would still weigh over 750 kilograms after the skin and bones were removed. Feng Wu only has a very small stomach. While everybody watched in bewilderment, Feng Wu started eating. Her movements were as graceful as a court lady's. When she started cutting, her moving hands reminded the others of flying butterflies. She happened to be wearing a dress with long, wide sleeves today, and when her hands moved, her sleeves created folds that looked like layers of clouds. With Feng Wu's good looks, the whole scene became a beautiful painting. Her appetite was as stunning as her beauty. What kind of combination was that? Babe decided it was foolish of Babu to show the girl mercy. He decided to defeat the girl and step on her back. So what if she's pretty? Does she think that'll stop me? No. I'll make her miserable because she's so pretty. Babe ate the meat with great pleasure. But soon, all that was left of Feng Wu's tiger was a skeleton, while Babe still had a third of his meat left. He was dumbfounded. This shouldn't be happening. He wasn't alone. No one could believe their eyes. How could this be? Feng Wu finished the tiger under everybody's gaze. She couldn't have cheated. With so many people's eyes on her, she couldn't have hidden the meat in her storage space, even if she wanted to. The only option was to eat the whole thing. Feng Sun rose to his feet. Since when did his sister have such a big appetite? Despite eating so much, she still looked so graceful. After finishing the tiger, she rested her chin on her hands and smiled at Babe. Didn't you say you wouldn't let me win? I don't think you tried hard enough. I really want to see how you'll do that. Every word felt like a slap to Babe's face. His face turned scarlet red. Unable to stand the humiliation anymore, he glared at Feng Wu, put down the meat, and ran off the stage. Only then did the others realize what had happened. Xiao Wu won this round. She defeated 2 people in a row. Victory! Feng Sun felt both thrilled and conflicted. Was this girl who had eaten a whole tiger really his sister? Chapter 3207, 3207 Wife. 3207 Wife. How much longer could she keep doing this? Nobody knew the answer. The people of the Zhenhua Empire were cheering for Feng Wu, but deep down, they all felt uneasy. It was soon Basie's turn. The giant lost his round before long. Basie was speechless, and so was everybody in the crowd. After Basie was Banan. Everybody thought that after winning 3 rounds, it was time for Feng Wu to lose. As a matter of fact. What? OMG. She can still eat. She's eaten 3 elephants, 2 tigers, and 2 cows. How can she still eat more? Where does all that meat go? Everybody was shocked by Feng Wu's appetite. She couldn't have spit the food out, because she never left her chair. There's only 1 round left. Both sides only have 1 contestant left. Who will be the final winner? At first, the people of the Zhenhua Empire thought they would definitely lose, but they grew hopeful after seeing Feng Wu's performance. Maybe we can do this. However, their jaws dropped when Badong stepped forward. He had the most successful mutation. He was 3 meters tall, and his shoulders were a meter wide. When he sat down, he looked like a small mountain. If the chair weren't made from a special material, it would have collapsed under his weight. Feng Wu looked like a dwarf compared with Badong. He smiled maliciously. You're good. Feng Wu glanced at him without saying a word. Badong said, how about a bet? Feng Wu just stared at him. Badong said, if I win, you'll return to the Dongseng Kingdom with me and become the wife of the 5 of us. How's that? Holy crap. What a humiliation. The people of the Dongseng Kingdom all laughed. Those of the Zhenhua Empire wanted to kill them. Feng Sun looked like a furious lion, and Xianyi was drawing his sword. Feng Wu's eyes glinted coldly as she stared at Badong. Talking too much will only get you killed. She was already looking at Badong as if he was a corpse. Badong laughed. Are you saying I'm going to die? Think about my offer. If you win, the 5 of us will be your most loyal servants. Deal? He even winked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was speechless. Badong said, we're very capable. All 5 of us are level 8 spiritual kings. What do you think? Feng Wu said, that sounds acceptable. Badong asked, Is that a yes? Feng Wu smirked. Why not? Feng Sun was furious. Feng Wu, what are you thinking? He bellowed while pointing at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled and waved him off. I won't lose. Feng Sun didn't believe her. You've defeated 4 giants, and must have reached your limit. How much more can you eat? What if you lose? If they made a deal with the Dongseng Kingdom, it couldn't be revoked. Feng Wu ignored Feng Sun, and turned to look at Badong. She sensed some unusual energy from the 5 brothers. Why did they suddenly mutate? What was their secret? Chapter 3208, 3208 defeated. 3208 defeated. Feng Wu hadn't figured out how their bloodline worked. Since they were already here, why not take advantage of this opportunity? She immediately said yes. Badong sneered at Feng Wu. The feast began. This time, they each had a golden lion. Each lion weighed at least 5 tons. Badong buried his face in the food, and Feng Wu also focused on her lion. The battle had gone beyond the 5 swords, or the dignity of the empire and the kingdom. The most important things were Feng Wu and the 5 brothers. The winner could take the loser away. Badong was very confident in his appetite. Everybody was watching them nervously. All eyes were on Badong because he was eating so fast. Dozens of kilograms of meat soon disappeared into his mouth. When they looked at Feng Wu, their eyes widened in astonishment. Feng Wu was eating as fast as Badong, if not faster. She had wolfed down at least 20% of the lion. Badong was exasperated. His 4 brothers shouted from behind him, "Faster! Eat faster! Come on!" When the 4 of them shouted in unison, the sound was deafening. Badong panicked. He kept stuffing more meat into his mouth with both hands. He didn't even need to chew before swallowing. However, he was still slower than Feng Wu. The others couldn't believe their eyes. She was so fast. How could a lovely girl eat so much? Was her stomach a bottomless pit? She only had 1/3 of her golden lion left, but Badong had only eaten 1/3 of his. Badong, come on. Badong, your freedom is at stake. Badong, eat faster. The people of the Dongseng Kingdom cheered for Badong at the top of their lungs. Mu Yan was among them. She was only alive because she had activated the 5 people's bloodlines with her potion, and convinced Mr. Sakiya that she was still useful. What were these 5 people doing? They were such idiots. Mu Yan couldn't understand why Feng Wu had to make trouble for her every single time. Badong, you must defeat Feng Wu, Mu Yan thought. In the end, Feng Wu finished the lion first while Badong still had 1/3 to go. The incense stick was still burning. Wretch! He ate too fast to breathe normally, and suddenly started vomiting. The contents of his stomach splattered all over the floor. Yuck! Feng Wu quickly stepped away before the vomit got on her. Everybody stared at Badong. That was so gross. Even Badong himself was astonished. What should he do now? He looked up at the incense stick. There was only the last 10% left. Even if he could finish what was left of the lion, he still had to put everything on the ground back into his stomach. Even so, he would take longer than Feng Wu had. He had lost the game. Feng Wu grinned. She didn't say anything and waited for her opponent to give up. She was 100% sure she was going to win. The 5 brothers didn't stand a chance. Feng Sun was still dumbfounded. Was this real? What did Xiao Wu have in her stomach? She had defeated 5 giants. Chapter 3209, 3209 Special Blood. 3209 Special Blood. We won. We won the game. Really? That's not possible. We won the game? The people of the Junhua Empire were silent for a moment before they burst into cheers. The assassins of the Dongseng Kingdom all stared at Feng Wu in bewilderment. They couldn't understand how this had happened. Badong wished the ground would open up so that he could jump in. How humiliating. All 5 giants had lost. Feng Wu smiled at him. What was our bet again? Remind me. My memory isn't that good. Badong wanted to scream. His face turned purple. The people of the Junhua Empire suffered so much humiliation until Feng Wu won the competition for them. They were in high spirits, especially Feng Sun. Holding his stomach, he ran up the stage and bellowed at Badong. Screw you! How dare you trick me? Don't you know how awesome my sister is? She can defeat you by eating alone. She doesn't even need to fight you. Badong's face flushed, and he stared at Feng Sun. Do you think you can defeat me in a battle? Damn you! Feng Sun was furious. So what if you're a level 8 spiritual king? I can still kick your ass. Badong said. Alright. Let's do it. If. Feng Wu smiled at him. What will happen if you win? What if you lose? Badong said. If we win, we won't be your servants. If you win, then what? Feng Wu smiled at him, not feeling intimidated at all. If you win, Badong said, not only will we become your servants, we'll also tell you who activated our giant bloodline. Feng Wu shook her head. Finding that person would be very easy. She just needed to feed the brothers the truth serum. Therefore, the proposal wasn't appealing to her at all. She wanted the immortal spiritual fruit, but it was obvious that the 5 giants wouldn't have access to the second one. She thought about it and suddenly asked, what are your jobs in the Dongseng Kingdom? Yang Jihu was a level 9 spiritual king, and he was the head of the colonel's quarters. The giants were level 8 spiritual kings, so they had to hold some sort of position. We're team leaders of the Special Bloodline Unit, said Badong. Special Bloodline Unit. That was interesting. Feng Wu gave it a thought. If you lose, you'll give me a bottle of blood from each member of your unit. How's that? Mu Yan frowned. No. She stepped out and frowned. Definitely not. Feng Wu said, I'll take these 5 people then. Mu Yan went red in the face. Feng Wu, do you have to give me a hard time like this? The 5 giants would be the foundation of Sakiya's newly trained 5 elements formation, which could only succeed with all 5 of them. Sakiya would be furious if he knew what had happened. Feng Wu almost laughed. Who are you? Why would I deliberately make trouble for you? Mu Yan ground her teeth. Fine. You want a battle? I'll appoint our contestant. If you win, I'll give you a tube of blood from each of the members of the Special Bloodline Unit. Feng Wu asked, really? You want to appoint your own contestant? Chapter 3210, 3210 Amazing Sister. 3210 Amazing Sister. Of course. Mu Yan pointed around. Feng Sun, Xianyi and Feng Wu, you must all participate. She then pointed at 2 random people, Mu Nan and Wang Zhaola. Feng Wu chuckled. What about your side? Badong and his 4 brothers. Mu Yan smirked. Feng Wu said, all right. Feng Sun frowned, and pulled Feng Wu to the side. Xiao Wu, you should know. Feng Wu said, I know. Feng Sun said. After taking the potion, they're all level 8 spiritual kings now, but we're. Feng Wu cut him off and said seriously. We'll become level 9 spiritual kings then. What? Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu as if she were an idiot. Level 9 spiritual kings. She made it sound so easy. He was only a level 7 spiritual king. Feng Wu looked at Mu Yan. Gather all the special blood, and we'll meet again in 2 hours. Mu Yan asked, why 2 hours? Feng Wu said, we need to make breakthroughs. Feng Sun needs to become a level 9 spiritual king. Mu Yan laughed. She didn't want to, but what Feng Wu said was too funny. She wasn't alone. Both the Dongseng assassins and the people of the Zhenhua Empire looked at Feng Wu as if she were an idiot. Yes, Feng Wu had amazed them from time to time, such as when she first appeared in the junior arena, and when she defeated all her opponents just then. However, she had just claimed she could raise Feng Sun's cultivation by 2 levels in 2 hours. That wasn't possible. Feng Wu led Feng Sun and Xianyi in a different direction. Where are we going? Feng Sun and Xianyi were both confused. Feng Wu said succinctly, you're taking a bath. Feng Sun said, a bath? Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Feng Sun said, what are you thinking? The competition is about to begin. Why are you taking us to a bath? Before Feng Wu could answer, Feng Sun said in a hurry, Xiao Wu, you're a clever girl. Why are you doing such a silly thing? A silly thing? Feng Wu looked at him in confusion. Feng Sun was exasperated. The 5 brothers are as strong as bears. They all have the giant bloodline, and are all level 8 spiritual kings, but I. Feng Sun felt abashed, but had to tell Feng Wu the truth. I'm only a level 7 spiritual king. Feng Wu said, that low? Even Wang Jiala is at level 8 now. Feng Sun asked, what? Feng Wu said, don't worry. You're my brother. I won't leave you behind. Feng Sun said, what do you mean? Instead of answering the question, Feng Wu said, open the door. Feng Sun was still hesitating when Feng Wu took out her phoenix pen and wrote, open on the door. To Feng Sun's surprise, the door that was supposed to be opened by his medicine refiner alone suddenly opened. Feng Sun's eyes widened and he gaped. What did he just witness? Feng Wu had opened that door with a pen. He looked at the key in his hand. According to Yang Jihu, this room was protected by a formation, and only this key could open the door. Anyone cultivating in this room wouldn't be disturbed. Chapter 3211. 3211 You're kidding me. 3211 You're kidding me. Come in. Feng Wu opened the door. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. Why did it feel like Feng Wu owned the place? Feng Wu went in first. All the rooms in this area were identical. Feng Wu's room had a 3-meter by 5-meter pool for her to bathe in. As expected, she entered Feng Sun's room to find the same pool. Before Feng Wu and Xian Yi could react, Feng Wu took out her storage bag and started filling that pool. The liquid she used wasn't water, but the all-purpose transformation liquid. But Feng Sun and Xian Yi didn't know that. Feng Sun kept staring at Feng Wu. What's that? Feng Wu explained as she poured. It's all-purpose transformation liquid. All-purpose transformation liquid? Feng Sun actually knew what that was. The all-purpose transformation liquid? Is that the liquid that gives you 3 lucky draws? Feng Sun asked. He had read about it when flipping through some old books in Jun Linyuan's study. He had been sitting on the floor while holding the book. He had told Jun Linyuan expectantly, Boss Jun, I want the all-purpose transformation liquid. Boss Jun kicked him, making him spin like a whipping top. In your dreams. Jun Linyuan shattered his dream. But why? Feng Sun felt dizzy from the spinning. He struggled to his feet and complained to Jun Linyuan. Why? Why? Jun Linyuan snorted. You need to find an essence crystal mine first before you can find the all-purpose transformation liquid. But the chance of finding the latter is less than 0.1%. Do you think you're that lucky? Feng Sun became disappointed and never brought up that request again. However, he had just heard that name again. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu in resignation. Did you find an essence crystal mine? Feng Wu said, I did. She had poured out 40% of the all-purpose transformation liquid that was in her storage bag, and felt that should be enough. She then put the bag back into her chest pocket. She needed to keep some for her family and friends in the imperial capital, especially for Chaoga, who needed to pick up her pace before she fell too far behind. Feng Sun flicked Feng Wu's forehead with his finger. Don't make fun of me. That's not funny. Feng Wu blinked innocently. Feng Sun asked, Did you say that was the all-purpose transformation liquid? Feng Wu rubbed her forehead. Yes. Feng Sun said, Yes? Do you think I don't know what that is? Do you know how precious? Feng Wu kicked him into the pool before he could finish. Feng Sun fell into the pool and nearly choked. Xian Yi was astonished. He had been greatly impressed when Feng Wu had eaten all those beasts earlier. And now? You should go in too. Feng Wu glanced at him. She had no intention of leaving. She sat down with her legs crossed 3 meters away from the pool. She was going to guard them while they had the bath. Feng Sun and Xian Yi exchanged looks, and both seemed abashed. Is my sister going to watch while we bathe? That's so awkward. And she said this is the all-purpose transformation liquid. Come on. Does she think I'm a fool? That liquid can give each person 3 great opportunities. But right at that moment. Chapter 3212. 3212 What did you get? 3212 What did you get? Feng Sun felt a humming in his head. He then turned around and looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. It was so strange. Xian Yi, who had entered the pool, turned to look at Feng Sun. The two of them began to exchange looks of surprise. Is this the all-purpose transformation liquid? Feng Sun asked hesitantly. Xianyi nodded solemnly. Feng Sun said, damn it. It's true. He was completely dumbfounded. According to Boss June, the all-purpose transformation liquid was very hard to come by. Where did Xiao Wu get it? Apparently, Feng Wu wasn't ready to answer him, because she was cultivating herself. The all-purpose transformation liquid didn't work for her, probably because she had been so lucky recently. However, it had significantly helped the others. For instance, Wang Zhala had risen by 2 levels. He had made the fastest progress among everyone else. Feng Wu didn't know what would become of Feng Sun, and felt rather nervous about it. The water turned into an ordinary green shade when Feng Sun came out. Leaving a trail of wet footprints behind him, he sat down in front of Feng Wu and rubbed her head. Feng Wu didn't like being touched by his wet hand. She said impatiently, "What are you doing?" Feng Sun said seriously, "I just want to check if my sister is a fairy. I see you have a shadow behind you, and I can touch you." Feng Wu snorted and smacked Feng Sun's hand away. "I think you're talking about a ghost, not a fairy." Feng Sun kept his gaze on her. "How can you?" He didn't know how to describe his sister. What did he do to deserve such a wonderful sister? "Becoming your brother was the best thing that ever happened to me." Feng Sun sighed. Feng Wu asked, "Why do you look so serious? What did you get?" Feng Sun asked, "I gained experience in all 3 lucky draws." Feng Wu was pleasantly surprised. "How many years?" Feng Sun said, "Enough to make me a level 9 spiritual king." That was why he was so astonished that he wanted to see if his sister was real. What had happened was so. He would give her anything she wanted. She deserved the best. Feng Wu said, "Make your breakthroughs then." Feng Sun rubbed his nose. "I just find it so out of the ordinary. I can't believe it. It doesn't feel real. Is it real?" Feng Wu rolled her eyes. "Do you think you're alone? Everybody has become stronger." Hence, she told him how she had tricked the military academy out of mine number 3 and discovered the all-purpose transformation liquid. How greedy the military academy was, and how she had shut them up. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. All the information made him dizzy. "Don't you believe me?" Feng Wu poked Feng Sun's cheek, seeing that he seemed to be dazed. Feng Sun said, "I do." That was why he felt the world had changed when he had only been in the Dayless Woods for a couple of days. Chapter 32:13. 32:13 You're not God's daughter. 32:13 You're not God's daughter. Feng Sun believed it, which was why it felt so unreal. Feng Wu smiled. "Since you've obtained so much experience, use it now. We only have less than an hour before the competition starts." Feng Sun nodded. Xianyi opened his eyes at that moment. Feng Sun ran to his side and asked excitedly, "What did you get? Tell me." Xianyi's handsome face remained expressionless. Feng Sun grew even more curious. "What did you gain?" Xianyi didn't answer. Instead, he closed his eyes and started cultivating. Feng Sun snorted. "All my 3 lucky draws gave me cultivation experience. I'll definitely become stronger than you. I'll be the second best of the 3 of us." Feng Sun sat down and started cultivating after that. He and Xianyi were both the talented type. They immediately switched to cultivation mode, and were no longer affected by the outside world. Feng Wu guarded them as they cultivated. Just then, she heard some noise outside. She frowned a little, and went up to the door. She quietly opened the door and found Yang Jihu outside, so she left the room and closed the door behind her. While she was at it, she put an inscription on the door. She didn't want someone to disturb Feng Sun and Xianyi's breakthroughs while she was away. She would be utterly frustrated if the 2 promising young men were affected. Seeing Yang Jihu, Feng Wu said, "I see you've come out of your seclusion." Yang Jihu had been busy with his cultivation until now. Feng Wu remembered something. Elder Helion mentioned before that an elder was to take over the colonel's quarters, because as a level 9 spiritual king, Yang Jihu wasn't capable enough for his current position anymore. Before Feng Wu could ask anything, Yang Jihu patted her head, looking pleased. "You're a girl of wonder." Feng Wu asked, "Did you make a breakthrough?" Yang Jihu controlled his excitement and kept a straight face. Yes. Fengwu walked around him. You were a level 9 spiritual king before. Have you risen to the spiritual overlord stage? Yang Jihu was amazed. You sure know how to guess. Fengwu asked. What level are you? Yang Jihu asked. What do you think? Of course I'm level 1. Making breakthroughs isn't as easy as eating and drinking. You don't become 2 levels higher overnight. That only happens in dreams. Yang Jihu found the current situation a little abnormal. The girl shouldn't find making breakthroughs so easy, because that mentality would harm her progress in the future. Hence, Yang Jihu gave her a little speech. Fengwu, you have to remember something. Making breakthroughs is a difficult thing. You can't think it's easy, because of the all-purpose transformation liquid. He kept stressing how tough it was to cultivate, fearing that Fengwu would go down the wrong track. Fengwu knew he was right, so she listened carefully. It's very hard to rise 2 levels at once. Wang Zhaola is the only colonel who has done that. Moreover, the breakthrough this time involves collecting your future potential in advance. Cultivating is the most difficult task in the world. You can't be this lucky all the time. It's not like God is your father. Chapter 32:14. 32:14 My dear sister. 32:14 My dear sister. Just then, there was a noise in the room, and Fengwu immediately pushed the door open. As expected, she entered the room to find Feng Sun finishing his breakthrough. Xianyi had also opened his eyes. They had always been very close in terms of capability, and they even finished their cultivation at about the same time. Fengwu wasn't as capable as they were, so she couldn't tell how many levels they had risen by observing their spiritual essence. But Yang Jihu knew. Being a spiritual overlord, he was more powerful than any of them. Therefore, he could sense their levels. The moment he sensed them, he almost forgot to breathe. Am I a level 9 spiritual king now? Feng Sun checked himself in astonishment. He was dumbfounded. How did that happen? An hour ago, he was still envying Wang Zhaola, because the latter was level 8 while he was still level 7. In the blink of an eye, he was level 9. Wow, I'm level 9 now. Xianyi, did you hear that? I'm a level 9 spiritual king now. I'm the second best of the 3 of us. I'm better than you. Feng Sun was so excited that he couldn't form a coherent sentence. He had risen 2 levels in a row. The last time he made such achievements was back home during his childhood. After that, he had to work on 1 level at a time like everybody else. He was so happy with the outcome that he wanted to throw his sister into the sky and catch her with both arms. However, Xianyi glanced at Feng Sun as if the latter were an idiot. What a familiar look. Feng Sun sensed Xianyi's spiritual essence and immediately looked like a deflated balloon. Why are you a level 9 spiritual king too? Why? Feng Sun was frustrated. If there were a bed in the room, he would have wrapped himself in a blanket and rolled around in bed. Why? Why was it so hard to surpass Xianyi? Xianyi glanced at him, before looking at Fengwu. She was the girl who had brought them this miracle. He didn't say anything, and kept his feelings to himself. His eyes glowed when he looked at her. I'll protect you for the rest of my life, no matter what you think. That's my own decision. But Fengwu was rather dumb in that respect. She simply thought Xianyi was thinking of her. She had no idea he had made a life pledge toward her. Feng Sun ignored Xianyi and threw himself at Fengwu. Xiaowu, you're my dearest sister. Feng Sun looked like a puppy wagging its tail. There were stars in his eyes, and he looked like he could fly. Yang Jihu was baffled. Sister? His dearest sister. He wondered if he was supposed to know that, but he didn't ask, in case it was top secret. Feng Sun held onto Fengwu's sleeve and swayed it back and forth. Why are you so pretty? Why are you so awesome? I can't believe I have such a clever sister. You're like a fairy. Fengwu was speechless. She wondered where Feng Sun learned how to extol her to the skies. Was there a school for such things? It sounded like he wouldn't stop. Chapter 32:15. 32:15 They're too scared to come. 32:15 They're too scared to come. Fengwu said in resignation. The competition is about to begin. Feng Wu had accepted the competition because she wanted Feng Sun and Xianyi to practice their skills. She herself didn't plan to do any actual fighting. Feng Sun's eyes immediately lit up. That was right. The competition. Feng Wu and Mu Yan had agreed that each side would come up with 5 contestants, and Mu Yan had picked out the ones that the Zhenhua Empire would send. Feng Sun had complained to Feng Wu about accepting the competition, but now, he just wanted to celebrate this great decision. Let's go. We'll make them cry. He could barely keep both his feet on the ground. It felt great, because the 5 giants had given them such a hard time earlier. Feng Sun and his people found the swords first, but the 5 brothers tried to rob them. After a bloody battle, the 2 sides agreed to settle the conflict via an eating competition. However, the 5 brothers drank some potion that activated their giant bloodline, and could suddenly eat so much more. Feng Sun was furious. He had never been so frustrated in his life, and had been trying to vent his anger. Finally, he had found a chance. Around the arena stage, the people of the Dongseng Kingdom were as arrogant as ever since they thought they would definitely win the competition. Their 5 giants were all level 8 spiritual kings, which gave them much more strength. On top of that, they had determined which Zhenhua cultivators could participate in the competition. Feng Sun, Xianyi and Mu Nan were all level 7 spiritual kings. They didn't know Feng Wu's level and thought that Wang Zhaola, the level 8 spiritual king, was the most powerful of them all. The Zhenhua Empire didn't stand a chance. They couldn't understand why Feng Wu would agree to fight this battle. The colonels hadn't lost all hope. Was it possible that they still had some all-purpose transformation liquid left? Even so, it couldn't guarantee that Feng Sun and Xianyi would become level 8 spiritual kings, and that still wouldn't be enough. They were so anxious. Time ticked by, and it was soon time to start the competition that Feng Wu and Mu Yan had agreed on. However, Feng Wu still hadn't shown up. The Dongseng Kingdom was pleased. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows in satisfaction. She said, "Time is about to run out. Where's everybody? Where are the contestants of the Zhenhua Empire? Where did they go?" She had her supporters. A girl chimed in. "Are they scared? Did they run away?" The girl was Yu and was a sweet talker. Her adulation had always made Mu Yan happy, so she took the girl everywhere with her. Run away? Really? She agreed to that bet. Will she go back on her word? Mu Yan feigned a confused tone. "You said, they can't win the competition, and may even get killed. People will laugh at them for running away, but they get to live. I guess they'd rather choose the latter." As word of the competition spread, the event attracted much attention, especially since Feng Wu and Feng Sun were involved. More and more people were gathering here. The place was packed, and the nearby area was completely surrounded. The proud people of the Zhenhua Empire wouldn't stand for such mockery. Wang Zhaola retorted, "What do you mean, where's everybody? I'm right here." Feng Sun went to cultivate. "You'll be scared out of your wits when he returns." Mu Yan burst out laughing. Chapter 32:16. 32:16 Let me do it. 32:16 Let me do it. Mu Yan burst out laughing. She knew Feng Sun's current level. She had been trying to capture the general's son for a while. If she could achieve that, she would do her kingdom a great service. Once Mu Yan brought Feng Sun back to Sakiya, she could redeem herself for the mistakes she had made. "Time's up. Where are your people?" Mu Yan gloated. Yu echoed. "I think they're too scared to come." Mu Yan said, "It's not up to them. They took the bet, so they must take this challenge. If they're too scared, they can surrender." She looked around and felt greatly satisfied when she saw the angry expressions of the people of the Zhenhua Empire. "Babu, you and your 4 brothers can come with me." Mu Yan waved at the 5 giants. The 5 brothers sighed in relief. They had lost their freedom earlier. Luckily, they had just won it back. The people of the Zhenhua Empire were displeased when Mu Yan and her people started leaving. Wang Zhaola stepped forward. "Have you forgotten about me?" All eyes were on him. Mu Yan didn't expect to hear that, so she looked at Wang Zhaola in bewilderment. "You," Wang Zhaola said. Aren't I one of the 5 people you've picked out? He was right. Mu Yan had picked the 5 contestants: Feng Wu, Feng Sun, Xian Yi, Wang Jiala and Mu Nan. The first 3 hadn't returned yet, but the other 2 were still here. Mu Yan looked Wang Jiala up and down, feeling amazed. Don't you know the other 3 have given up? You're the only one left. Do you want to die? Wang Jiala said. Let me repeat this. No one has given up. They're still cultivating. Mu Yan rolled her eyes at him. What can they possibly do in 2 hours? Wang Jiala said. They'll surprise you. Mu Yan laughed. Surprise me? Are they going to rise a level? So what if they could? That wouldn't change anything. If you have a death wish, I won't stop you. Mu Yan turned to the 5 brothers. I don't care who fights this battle. Kill him. Don't stop before that. Babu smirked. Allow me. He attacked Wang Jiala without a moment of hesitation. The formidable giant was a level 8 spiritual king. Wang Jiala could withstand the strikes at first, but he soon began to lose ground. The people of the Zhengwu Empire grew anxious. Wang Jiala was the most powerful member of the 5, but Babu was the weakest of the 5 brothers. If Wang Jiala couldn't win this battle, would they still have a chance? No. Thump. Babu punched Wang Jiala in the chest. The force almost crushed Wang Jiala's chest, and the momentum nearly pushed him out of the arena. He held onto the edge of the stage, stopping himself from falling. Yang Hong ground his teeth and shouted, Get down from there, or they'll kill you. Mu Yan had said that in public. Chapter 3217, 3217 Painful Fingers. 3217 Painful Fingers. Should I let myself fall? Wang Jiala asked himself the question. The answer was obviously no. His main task was to stall and wait for the other 3 to come back. He had to stay on the stage. Feng Wu had worked so hard to gain some advantages for them. He couldn't give them away so easily. Mu Yan was watching Wang Jiala. She thought Wang Jiala would fall off the stage, but things didn't go as she had expected. Wang Jiala jumped back onto the stage. Why is he back? Is he an idiot? Why didn't he take the chance while he had it? Why did he jump back up? Mu Yan couldn't understand it. Babu couldn't understand it either. He only sneered at Wang Jiala in a malicious way. If you want to die, I'll give it to you. This time, Babu punched Wang Jiala in the head. It was too fast and too powerful to parry. If Wang Jiala hadn't made his breakthroughs, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the punch. Still, it didn't make him feel any better. He was almost struck down. Babu punched him 3 times. Poof! He swung his giant fist at Wang Jiala's head. Wang Jiala tried his best to dodge, and had just enough time to protect his vital parts. The fist brushed past his face. Thump! Wang Jiala was sent flying backward. He smashed into the ground on his back, and kept sliding further away. His clothes were ripped, and his back was bleeding. Wang Jiala dug his fingers into the ground, trying to stop himself. As he slid, the friction scraped off the first third of his fingers. When he reached the edge of the stage, he managed to grab it with his maimed hands. He couldn't give up. Mu Nan was far less capable than he was and couldn't withstand even 1 punch. Therefore, Wang Jiala knew he couldn't give up. The others couldn't bring themselves to see his hands. What a miserable sight. There was only a fraction of all his 10 fingers left. His fingers had turned into 10 bloody stubs. The pain must be excruciating. Everybody's expressions changed when they saw this. What a stubborn man! Mu Yan snorted. Wang Jiala was trying his best to climb back onto the stage. However, his hands felt weak, and he was covered in wounds. The pain almost made him faint. He barely had any strength left. Just then a pair of feet appeared in front of him. Babu stepped on Wang Jiala's hands. Ah! Wang Jiala screamed. The sound made one's hair stand up. His hands were already badly injured, and Babu had huge feet. To make it worse, he stomped on Wang Jiala's hands. Ah! Wang Jiala roared. That hurt. He had never been in so much pain before. Wang Jiala was the only son of an affluent family. Both his father and grandfather were also the only sons of their fathers. As a result, Wang Jiala had lived an indulgent life as a child. Fearing that he might be spoiled, his father sent him to Imperial College, which was why he ended up in Peace Grassland. Wang Zhala had never felt such excruciating pain. He passed out. Seeing that Wang Zhala was unconscious, Babu was bored. He kicked Wang Zhala off the stage, as if the latter was a broken toy. Chapter 3218, 3218 Master Zhu. 3218 Master Zhu. The colonels saw this coming and caught Wang Zhala in time. Mu Yan frowned at Babu, wondering why he only kicked Wang Zhala off the stage. Why didn't he just kill that boy? Just then, Mu Yan saw someone approaching them. Whoosh! 3 people soon reached the arena. They were Feng Wu, Feng Sun and Xian Yi. Feng Wu. They had arrived at a critical moment. Seeing that Wang Zhala had collapsed in the colonel's arms, Feng Wu frowned, but before she could say anything, the others described to her what had happened. They had forgotten that Feng Wu was only supposed to be a level 6 spiritual king, and most of them had higher levels than that. They all treated Feng Wu as their leader. Everybody was filled with righteous indignation, as they complained to Feng Wu about how brutal the Dongseng Kingdom's people were. Feng Wu's face darkened when she saw Wang Zhala's maimed fingers. Mu Yan was still provoking them. Where are the rest of your people? One is down. Send the next one. Mu Yan wanted to step forward, but Feng Sun stopped her. He smirked. I'm right here. He then walked up onto the stage with an intimidating aura. Mu Yan's eyes glinted coldly when she saw Feng Sun. She told Babu, he's the general's son, and Jun Lingyuan's childhood friend. You know what to do. She was furious that Babu hadn't killed Wang Zhala earlier. Babu didn't even look at her. He would determine how this battle was fought. Why was this woman so meddlesome? He studied Feng Sun carefully. He had been confident before that he could crush Feng Sun with a single strike without breaking a sweat. But now Babu felt uneasy, as if Feng Sun was much more capable than he was. Both of them were very cautious. They stared at each other, and neither would make the first move. In the end, Babu broke the impasse. Mu Yan thought that given Feng Sun's age, he couldn't have cultivated long enough to become a capable fighter. However, she realized how wrong she was when Feng Sun and Babu finally started exchanging blows. Babu was on the losing end from the very beginning. Crack, crack, crack. Under Feng Sun's constant attacks, Babu could only defend himself and had no energy to counterattack. How did this happen? Mu Yan was dumbfounded. That shouldn't happen. Feng Sun was supposed to be. When did Feng Sun become a level 9 spiritual king? Mu Yan heard a voice behind her. She turned around and saw that it was Zhu Yi, Sakiya's 3rd disciple. Next to Zhu Yi was Bu Jingyu, Sakiya's youngest disciple. Bu Jingyu looked rather dumb at the moment. Instead of watching the battle, he was watching Feng Wu, who was treating Wang Zhala's wounds. Bu Jingyu even wanted to greet Feng Wu, but Mu Yan stopped him with a stern look. Bu Jingyu nodded. Master Zhu. Mu Yan greeted Zhu Yi. Being Sakiya's 3rd disciple, Zhu Yi was quite a capable cultivator. Mu Yan didn't know his exact level, but he had to be a level 9 spiritual king at least. Chapter 3219. 3219 What does that mean? 3219 What does that mean? Zhu Yi glanced at Mu Yan and nodded at her before turning his attention to Feng Sun. Isn't Feng Sun a level 7 spiritual king? When did he rise to level 9? Zhu Yi's face darkened. The sudden improvement made him feel that things were getting out of hand. Level 9. Mu Yan's smile froze on her face. Her Dongseng comrades were equally shocked. Feng Sun had only been a level 7 spiritual king 2 hours ago. Everybody saw it. But now, a level 9 spiritual king. Mu Yan turned around and stared at Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi nodded. There's no doubt about it. Feng Sun is a level 9 spiritual king. Mu Yan sucked in her breath. She didn't want to believe it, but she couldn't change what had happened. There was a thump, and Feng Sun broke Babu's rib with a kick. Everyone was dumbfounded. Babu couldn't believe it either. He stared at Feng Sun and said, You won't be able to do it again. Feng Sun leapt into the air and broke Babu's 2nd rib. Everyone was dumbfounded. Babu stumbled backward and bellowed at Feng Sun. Bring it on! Feng Sun smirked. Although all his lucky draws gave him cultivation experience, he was especially lucky today because the strength of his legs had been enhanced. His legs felt like they were filled with endless power. He hadn't made the best use of them yet. Since Babu wanted to try him out, he would give the giant that chance. Feng Sun moved. Invisible energy seemed to spread from his right leg. Babu's face darkened, and he had a bad feeling, but he wouldn't accept what was happening. He was a level 8 spiritual king with the giant bloodline. So what if Feng Sun was a level 9 spiritual king? He had just become one. Babu believed he could withstand Feng Sun's kick. He wouldn't give in. I'll break you. Feng Sun raised his leg, and his kick felt like a tornado. A wave of energy rushed toward Babu. You can't defeat me. Babu crossed his arms in front of his chest. He wasn't afraid of Feng Sun. The next second, there was a loud thump, and Babu was sent flying backward as he made an arc in the air. What? Everybody cried out in surprise. The arrogant Babu felt utterly humiliated. Muyan looked like her eyes were going to pop. She stared at Feng Sun and Feng Wu in turn. Feng Sun hadn't been so capable before. Something must have happened when Feng Wu took him away for 2 hours. Find out what happened, Muyan whispered to you. You nodded and soon disappeared into the crowd. No one knew where she went. Zhui frowned a little. Feng Sun's kick. Muyan had suggested this bet. If the Dongseng kingdom lost, she would have to take responsibility. She didn't want Zhu Yi to see her lose the bet. Therefore, she promised Zhu Yi that what happened to Babu was only an accident, and it wouldn't happen again. Zhu Yi looked at Mu Yan in a strange way. Mu Yan was perplexed. Zhu Yi frowned at her. Miss Mu, you should focus on your medical skills. Martial arts aren't your thing. Mu Yan was irritated. What was that supposed to mean? Bu Jingyu chuckled. My senior brother is saying that you should stick to your pills. Chapter 3220, 3220 Grand Kick. 3220 Grand Kick. Mu Yan wanted to slap Bu Jingyu. However, Bu Jingyu hid behind Zhu Yi and made faces at Mu Yan. Mu Yan was furious. Meanwhile, the second giant walked onto the stage. It was Babe. The purity of the 5 brothers' bloodline was ranked according to their ages. Badong's was the purest, and Babu had the least pure blood of them all. Babe was slightly better than Babu. Feng Sun, bring it on. Babe challenged Feng Sun. Feng Sun snorted. What are you waiting for? Less than 5 minutes later, Feng Sun kicked Babe off the stage while he stood there without a scratch on him. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. Feng Sun won. He had won 2 games in a row. Resting his hands on his waist, Feng Sun shouted at the Dongseng Kingdom's people. Anyone else? Who's next? Feng Wu rubbed her forehead, finding her brother rather idiotic. She wished she didn't know him. The 5 brothers were all infuriated by Feng Sun. Basie was next. Unfortunately, he didn't last long before Feng Sun kicked him off the stage. How did this happen? Everybody was baffled. How was this possible? However, they panicked when Banan also fell off the stage. Ha 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 ha. Feng Sun had never been so pleased with himself before. Resting his hands on his waist, he shouted at the Dongseng Kingdom's side. Is there anyone else? Anyone? Badong took a deep breath and opened his eyes. Zhu Yi spoke at that moment. Watch out for his kick. Try not to give him any chance. Badong nodded. Meanwhile, the people of the Jumwa Empire were over the moon. Wow! We've turned things around. Today must be our lucky day. We've turned the tide twice already. The Dongseng Kingdom must be furious. Badong wouldn't accept it. He was the most capable of the 5 brothers, because he had the purest bloodline. His strength came from his giant bloodline. His battle against Feng Sun started while everybody watched excitedly. It was the most intriguing battle so far. Once Badong successfully topped Feng Sun's kicks, the game reached a stalemate. Badong punched with fists as heavy as large rocks. Although Feng Sun was a level 9 spiritual king, he probably couldn't withstand a direct punch. Feng Sun barely had a chance to attack. When he finally found an opportunity to use his kick, he was soon interrupted. Thump! Badong kicked at Feng Sun's right shin, and the latter grimaced in pain. That hurt. Feng Sun confronted Badong with a limp. However, Badong had seen Feng Sun's weakness and kept attacking the injured leg. The energy felt like a tidal wave. Feng Sun's face darkened, and he kept falling back. Meanwhile, Zhu Yi smiled in satisfaction and murmured, "If Feng Sun can fuse with my master's grand kick, the enhancement of his legs would be a real transformation. Otherwise, Zhu Yi was only mentioning it in passing, but somebody was listening carefully." Feng Wu was concerned with the battle, so she didn't miss Zhu Yi's comment. She glanced at Zhu Yi. Chapter 3221, 3221 Miracle Doctor 1. 3221 Miracle Doctor 1. Feng Wu involuntarily glanced at Zhu Yi. Sensing her gaze, Zhu Yi looked back at her. Their eyes met. Feng Wu nodded at him and raised her hand. Zhu Yi rubbed his chin. Somehow, he felt the beautiful girl was thanking him. Was he overthinking it? By then, the competition had come to an end. Feng Sun was kicked off the stage, but Badong didn't look any better. Frustrated, Feng Sun wanted to run back onto the stage. Feng Wu shook her head, stopping her brother right away. Feng Sun said, "Let go of me. I'll kick his ass. Don't stop me." Feng Wu said, "Practice your kicking first. Don't worry, Xianyi will get back at him for you." Only then did Feng Sun calm down. Xianyi was a promising swordsman. Unfortunately, the girl he cared about was treating Feng Sun's leg. She didn't see any of his marvelous moves. Badong was a tough fighter, but Xianyi eventually defeated him. The Dongseng Kingdom lost the battle. Mu Yan was dumbfounded. The Dongseng Kingdom had used all 5 contestants, but the Zhenhua Empire still had Feng Wu and Mu Nan left. No one could challenge the result. Mu Yan began to panic, and so did the 5 giants. Seeing their expressions, Zhu Yi asked, "What's the bet?" Bu Jingyu was equally curious, and he looked at Mu Yan. However, Mu Yan didn't dare answer that question. She kept her head low, embarrassed. Someone else told Zhu Yi. The stake for the first competition was 5 swords with inscriptions, but the 5 giants raised the stake on their own and made themselves part of it as well. They ended up losing that eating competition. It was Hirano, an assassin from the Dongseng Kingdom, who spoke. Zhu Yi frowned. It's one thing to lose 5 inscription swords, but the 5 brothers. He stared at the giants. This time, the 5 brothers stood in a row like 5 bears. They lowered their heads and looked dejected. Zhu Yi was in charge of 100 people who were as capable as the colonels of the Zhenhua Empire. That was to say, Zhu Yi had a similar ranking to Yang Jihu. When Zhu Yi looked at the 5 giants, none of them dared to move. Hirano continued. After these 5 people lost, they were unwilling to accept it, so Mu Yan initiated a martial arts competition. The bet was that if we won, the 5 of them would regain their freedom and wouldn't become the Zhenhua Empire's slaves. If we lost, then Hirano, who was a bystander, couldn't bring himself to go on. He only frowned. Then what? Zhu Yi pressed. Hirano looked at Miracle Doctor Mu Yan and sighed. Mu Yan said if the Zhenhua Empire won, we would provide them with bottles of blood samples from each of the special bloodline warriors. Nonsense. Zhu Yi was genuinely angry. He glared at Mu Yan. Mu Yan wasn't even qualified to study the special bloodlines. They belonged to her master. The special bloodlines were the Dongseng Kingdom's trump card. In the future, they could be used against the Zhenhua Empire. If she gave the blood samples to their opponents, it was equivalent to giving them the key to that secret. Mu Yan would ruin the Dongseng Kingdom's great plan. Seeing how angry Zhu Yi was, Mu Yan muttered, "The best medicine refiner in the Zhenhua Empire is only at the supreme level. What can they possibly find out?" Chapter 3222, 3222 Miracle Doctor 2. 3222 Miracle Doctor 2. Of course, Zhu Yi knew that the Zhenhua Empire was inferior in medical skills, formations, and inscriptions. The Zhengwu Empire knew little of these skills. But what if they knew something? Zhu Yi glared at Mu Yan, then turned to Feng Wu. I hope I can buy back all 5 of them. Feng Wu looked at him indifferently. We agreed on a bet. Can you change it so casually? Zhu Yi was speechless. Bu Jingyu looked at Feng Wu in amazement. He was impressed. He didn't dare say a word around Zhu Yi, but she was bold enough to talk back. Wait. She had even tricked his master. Thinking this, Bu Jingyu didn't dare make a sound. The secret was known only to him and Feng Wu. Zhu Yi asked Feng Wu, is it unnegotiable? Feng Wu said, yes. Zhu Yi nodded at Feng Wu and left. Seeing this, Mu Yan was flustered. Master Zhu. However, Ji Yi had no intention of helping her. Mu Yan turned around and glared at Feng Wu. I know the Zhenhua Empire has little medical skills, so I'll make a deal with you. I'll never give you the special blood, but... Mu Yan took out a bottle of potion from her sleeve and gave Feng Wu a condescending look. This is a semi-divine golden crow pill refined by my master. It's a healing pill. You've never seen it before in the Zhenhua Empire. This is a treasure that even your emperor would want to keep for himself. Take it. Mu Yan was extremely arrogant, and her tone was filled with disdain. Looking at the semi-divine golden crow pill in Mu Yan's hand, Feng Wu gave her a strange look. Feng Sun also stared at Mu Yan in amazement, wondering if this woman was an idiot. The ointment Feng Wu applied on his face just now was a semi-divine one. Even the emperor would want it for himself? Was she stupid? Feng Sun was a hot-tempered little fiend. How could he allow Mu Yan to do as she pleased? However, before Feng Sun could lose his temper, Feng Wu gave him a nudge. What a silly man. If Mu Yan knew Feng Wu was a semi-divine medicine refiner, the latter wouldn't give Feng Wu the special blood. Feng Wu stared at Mu Yan. I don't want that. I only want the special blood. She needed to study it. To be honest, the Dongxing Kingdom was a lot better in terms of medical skills. Mu Yan frowned at Feng Wu and said irritably, why are you so stubborn? Feng Wu smiled at her. I only want the special blood. Mu Yan said, if 1 bottle isn't enough, I may be. Feng Wu still smiled at her. I only want the special blood. Mu Yan said, I won't give it to you. You can stop dreaming. Feng Wu immediately caught the loophole. Taking the hint, Feng Sun started yelling. OMG, did you hear that? The Dongxing Kingdom has no credibility. They lost the bet and won't admit it. If you can't afford it, don't make the bet in the first place. Feng Sun was a popular man, and it was clear enough to everybody what he was getting at. Hence, all sorts of mocking voices filled the air. Oh my! The Dongxing Kingdom won't keep their word. The Dongxing Kingdom is shameless. Everyone come and take a look. The Dongxing Kingdom is shameless. The Dongxing Kingdom. Instead of criticizing Mu Yan, the people of the Zhenhua Empire denounced the Dongxing Kingdom as a whole, and the people of the Dongxing Kingdom were furious. Chapter 3223, 3223 Miracle Doctor 3. 3223 Miracle Doctor 3. Mu Yan had caused the trouble. Why should the kingdom take the blame? The Dongxing Kingdom didn't belong to Mu Yan alone. However, they couldn't refute the Zhenhua Empire, because the latter was right. Mu Yan had no idea how hard it would be to deal with Feng Wu. She glared at Feng Wu with hatred in her eyes. She tried to think if she had anything on Feng Wu. There was indeed something. Feng Wu and the Crown Prince seemed to be in a secret relationship, and Mu Yan thought only she knew. However, Mu Yan wondered if it would harm or help Feng Wu if she revealed that secret. Frankly, if someone said Mu Yan was in a relationship with the Crown Prince, she would be thrilled. Therefore, she couldn't tell anyone. Other than that, she didn't have anything else on Feng Wu. Mu Yan stared at Feng Wu. Is there really no other way? For example, I can give you inscriptions and formations. The surrounding people looked at Mu Yan eagerly. The Dongxing Kingdom's inscriptions and formations were extraordinary. The items that Mu Yan offered had to be good. The Dongxing Kingdom has a team of eagles. They rely on formations to tame them. They also have inscription bombs. If the eagles drop them from the air, they can cause a lot of casualties. If they activate their major weapons. The people of the Zhenhua Empire had been bombed before, so they were still scared. Hearing the discussion around them, Mu Yin gave Feng Wu a sidelong glance. What if I give you 5 giant spirit eagles? I can also give you inscription bombs. How about 10? Mu Yin had thought Feng Wu would agree, but Feng Wu gave her a strange look. Giant spirit eagles? Inscription bombs? What are those? Mu Yin looked at Feng Wu in surprise, as if she was looking at a country bumpkin. She raised her voice agitatedly. Are you so ill-informed? You don't even know about giant spirit eagles? You haven't even heard of inscription bombs? She didn't try to hide the disdain in her eyes. Feng Sun glared at Mu Yin. This is Xiao Wu's first time in Peace Grassland. Why is it so strange that she doesn't know what giant spirit eagles and inscription bombs are? After that, Feng Sun explained to Feng Wu what those things were. Feng Wu was amazed. So the giant spirit eagles were equivalent to fighter jets in the modern world. Inscription bombs? That name was self-explanatory. They were made of special materials and inscriptions, and could blow up cultivators above the spiritual king stage. Without inscriptions, ordinary bombs wouldn't be able to injure cultivators above that stage. Feng Wu said, I didn't know such things existed. Feng Sun said grimly, they do exist but we. Feng Sun didn't finish his sentence, but Feng Wu knew what he meant. He was saying that the Zhenhua Empire was so behind in these arts that it had neither of those. Indeed, we don't have any giant spirit eagles, because that involves an extremely profound formation. It's not something that 2 level 8 inscription masters can control. As for inscription bombs, it's not like we don't have any but. Feng Sun whispered to Feng Wu. Ours are weaker than theirs. Feng Sun tried to downplay it, but Mu Yin didn't give him that chance. Weaker? I think you mean much weaker. Chapter 3224. 3224 Miracle Doctor 4. 3224 Miracle Doctor 4. Feng Sun tried to downplay it, but Mu Yin didn't give him that chance. Weaker? I think you mean much weaker. Feng Sun was so angry that he wanted to punch her to death. He was so mad. So was everybody in the Zhenhua Empire. Feng Wu stared at Mu Yin. Is that true? Mu Yin said, of course. Feng Wu tilted her head and gave it some thought. Actually, giant spirit eagles and inscription bombs were very useful, especially the latter. She could do a lot of things with them. Feng Wu smirked inwardly, but kept her face calm. Deal. Mu Yin had thought Feng Wu would try to bargain, but she didn't expect Feng Wu to agree so easily. What a surprise. She decided Feng Wu was too short-sighted. Mu Yin glanced at you. You soon brought forward a wooden box. There were a total of 10 inscription bombs in the box. Feng Wu frowned. Is this the latest model? Feng Sun nodded at Feng Wu. That's right. I've seen them use it before. It's very powerful. It can't kill us, but it can stop us for a moment. When experts fight, a moment's delay can be fatal. Feng Wu nodded and turned to Mu Yin. She wanted to see the giant spirit eagle now. Mu Yin stared at Feng Wu and gave her a strange smile. She could give Feng Wu the giant spirit eagle, but it was up to the latter to control it. Just then, you carried a small giant spirit eagle over with both hands. Feng Wu had thought that the giant spirit eagle was a living creature, but she was wrong. It turned out that giant spirit eagle was only a title. It was a manufactured aircraft that was only big enough to fit one person, but there was a lot of space at the bottom, which was reserved for fuel and inscription bombs. As expected, the Dongseng Kingdom was very advanced in such technologies. Mu Yin was ready to take the 5 giants away, but Feng Wu said, stop. Mu Yin turned around and glared at Feng Wu. I've already given you what you want. We're even now. Feng Wu smiled. That's right. Our account is settled now, but... She pointed at the 5 brothers. They haven't settled theirs yet. Theirs? Mu Yin said angrily. But what I gave you? Feng Wu cut her off. As a matter of fact, you know very well what you just gave me is worth far less than all the special blood. Mu Yin said, that's not true. Feng Wu said, that's true because you offered them to me without hesitation. Mu Yin was speechless. She stared at Feng Wu, wondering why the latter was so clever. Feng Wu was right. The giant spirit eagles and the inscription bombs were indeed high-level items in the Dongxing kingdom. However, she still had some authority, so she didn't feel the pinch at all when she gave them away. However, all the special blood, even if her master could forgive her, Mr. Sakia would still want to kill her. In the end, they finally came to an agreement. The Ba brothers didn't have to be Feng Wu's slaves, but each of them had to leave a bottle of blood for Feng Wu. Between becoming slaves and losing some blood, anybody would choose the latter. The brothers took action as soon as Feng Wu made the request. 5 bottles of fresh blood were soon brought to Feng Wu. Mu Yan left with the 5 brothers, feeling proud of herself. Being a member of the Dongxing kingdom gave her a sense of superiority. Chapter 3225, 3225 Inscription Girl, 1. 3225 Inscription Girl 1. The sense of superiority mainly came from the fact that the Dongxing kingdom had mastered these technologies, but the Zhenwu Empire hadn't. However, Mu Yan had no idea what she had traded away. Feng Sun gave Feng Wu a strange look. Why didn't you ask for more? There's only 1 giant spirit eagle and 10 inscription bombs. What's the point? Of course they were useful. Feng Wu smiled at Feng Sun, but didn't give him an explanation. Feng Sun rubbed his head. We don't know how to use the giant spirit eagle. This was the first time Feng Wu had seen something like this. No one knew if Mu Yan did it on purpose, but the hatch of the giant spirit eagle was tightly shut. In other words, if they didn't crack open this hatch, they wouldn't even be able to enter. Feng Sun seemed to have thought of something and flew into a rage. That Mu Yan! She didn't give us the key to the inscriptions. We can't open it without the key. The surrounding people were furious. How could that woman be so mean? At this moment, a group of people arrived, panting from running. The leader was Elder Mu, and behind him were his disciples. At that moment, they were running toward Feng Wu and Feng Sun in a hurry. Quickly take the giant spirit eagle away. Elder Mu waved at his disciples. The 4 young men immediately rushed toward the flying machine. Feng Wu looked at them in bewilderment and wondered what they were doing. Hey! Feng Sun intervened and stared at Elder Mu. What are you doing? The giant spirit eagle is ours. The others around them also gave Elder Mu strange looks. Elder Mu frowned and glared at Feng Sun impatiently. Young Lord Feng, this isn't the time for you to make trouble. Step aside. Make trouble? Feng Sun was furious. Elder Mu had come with a group of people to steal his sister's things. But this old fool was accusing Feng Sun of causing trouble? Feng Sun was amused. I'm making trouble? What kind of logic is that? Feng Sun stared at Elder Mu. Elder Mu's face darkened as he stared at Feng Sun. Young Lord Feng, this is a giant spirit eagle. It'll determine the future of the Zhenwu Empire. Feng Sun asked. So? Elder Mu reprimanded Feng Sun in the manner of a senior. We'll start studying it as soon as we bring it back. We'll be able to replicate it soon. Once we can do that, young Lord Feng, we won't be suppressed by the Dongxing kingdom in the future. Do you know that? Feng Sun said. Wait. Other things aside, my sister won this giant spirit eagle, didn't she? Elder Mu glanced at Feng Wu. That's true, but there's a limit to what's important. Feng Sun waved his hand. I don't care about your limit. All I know is that this belongs to my sister. No one is allowed to touch it. After that, Feng Sun stared at the 4 disciples of Elder Mu. Feng Sun was already a level 9 spiritual king, and no one could withstand his aura. Therefore, the 4 disciples panicked and let go of the machine. They looked to their master for help. Elder Mu's face flushed red. Feng Sun, you don't know what you're doing. At this moment, another group of people rushed over. It was Elder Yan, who had received the news. By now, Yan Han had already come out of seclusion, so she followed behind Elder Yan. Elder Yan was also an inscription master, so after hearing this news, he rushed over like a madman. Giant Spirit Eagle! Giant Spirit Eagle! Chapter 3226, 3226 Inscription Girl, 2. 3226 Inscription Girl, 2. Elder Yen was also an inscription master, so after hearing this news, he rushed over like a madman. Giant Spirit Eagle, Giant Spirit Eagle. Before Elder Yen arrived, everybody could hear his excited voice. When Elder Mu heard Elder Yan's voice, he immediately frowned. Yen, why are you here? Elder Mu didn't look happy. Elder Yen looked at Elder Mu and immediately laughed. That's because I heard that there's an intact giant spirit eagle. That's why I rushed over to take a look. I don't want it to be taken away in a scam. If that happens, I'll never be able to get it back. What Elder Yen said was more than a suggestion. It was more like a veiled threat. Elder Mu sneered. You make it sound like you had an intact giant spirit eagle previously. Giant spirit eagles were hard to come by. Even in the Dongseng Kingdom, it was extremely precious. The Dongseng Kingdom didn't use it casually. Once used, the eagle would definitely cause an earth-shattering effect. For example, a large wave of inscription bombs could be dropped, causing a mess. With the giant spirit eagle, the Dongseng Kingdom could control the sky. Back then, the Junhua Empire's fortress had been attacked by giant spirit eagles and inscription bombs. At that time, the fortress was almost in ruins. Later on, Feng Xiangnan, the general of the fortress, came forward and negotiated with Shuizhibei, the general of the other side's fortress, and an agreement was signed. No one knew what price the northern Feng general had to pay before the Dongseng Kingdom finally stopped taking control of the sky. The two sides had been preparing their troops at the border and training their younger generation of cultivators. There was no big battle, but there was constant friction. The Junhua Empire had caught giant spirit eagles before, but they were always broken. This was because the giant spirit eagle would self-destruct, and no one in the Junhua Empire could stop it. Hence, Elder Mu glared at Elder Yen. Now isn't the time for you to cause trouble. This giant spirit eagle will self-destruct very soon. Do you still want to fight with me over this? Elder Yen thought about it and agreed. Yen Han darted a look at Feng Wu and said in an arrogant tone. Did you hear that? I told you to get out of the way. In terms of inscriptions, Yen Han believed only her grandfather and Elder Mu were the strongest on Peace Grassland. No one else could compare with them. Elder Yen glared at Yen Han. Shut up. Apologize to Feng Wu now. Elder Yen had seen how capable Feng Wu was. Feng Wu didn't bat an eye when confronting Elder Dongfang, but Yen Han dared to provoke her. Elder Yen was almost scared out of his wits. Elder Yen smiled apologetically at Feng Wu. Miss Feng Wu, this giant spirit eagle. Feng Wu gave him a strange look. Didn't Elder Yen see her break the protective shield earlier? Feng Wu tried her best to think back. Elder Yen had been sitting a few steps away from the protective shield, and he hadn't seen her use the phoenix pen to crack the inscription shield. No wonder he was trying to get the giant spirit eagle. However, Feng Wu shook her head. I'm afraid you can't have it. Before Elder Yen could say anything, Feng Wu gave Feng Sun a look. Of course, Feng Sun understood what Feng Wu meant. Hence, he picked up the giant spirit eagle single-handedly. Let's go. Feng Sun was ready to leave. He didn't forget to yell at Xian Yi as he walked. Inscription bombs. Don't forget the inscription bombs. Xian Yi didn't answer him, but he did catch up with Feng Sun with the box of inscription bombs in one hand. Feng Wu watched from behind as Xian Yi carried the inscription bombs, as if they were beer in a basket. Chapter 3227. 3227 Inscription Girl 3. 3227 Inscription Girl 3. Feng Wu followed him right away. At that moment, Elder Mu and Elder Yin were anxious. Elder Mu stomped his foot in exasperation. How can she be so insensible? How can she not care about the big picture? Elder Yin didn't know what to say since he also thought Feng Wu was messing around. We can't let her ruin such a rare item. Elder Mu glared at Elder Yin. Elder Yin shrugged. Elder Helion must hear about this. Elder Mu wanted Elder Yin to go with him, but Elder Yin wasn't sure about this decision. That was because he remembered very clearly that Feng Wu had a powerful background. She could even pat Mr. Sue on the shoulder and call him Old Sue. Elder Mu, Elder Yen, and the rest of them left as quickly as they came. However, the onlookers had yet to leave. They usually focused on cultivation, so it was rare for them to have the time to participate in something completely irrelevant. However, they were rooted to the spot for a long time, and even discussed it with their companions. Fengwu, I don't think she's going to hand over the giant spirit eagle. She won the giant spirit eagle. She can do whatever she wants with it, right? That's true, but it's about the overall situation. By doing this, isn't she a little short-sighted? I don't know if you've noticed, but Elder Mu and Elder Yin don't seem to be able to do anything to her. Peace Grassland had a strict hierarchy. When subordinates saw their superiors, they were all in awe, and the crowd hadn't dared to say a word when the two elders were around just now. However, Fengwu turned the two elders down right away, which was incredible. Everyone discussed and said all sorts of things. A figure in the crowd stared at Fengwu for a long time. It was none other than Zhuo. After arriving at Peace Grassland, Zhuo had the most complicated feelings. Back at Imperial College, she used to be the vice dean, and Fengwu was only a student. Back then, she had looked at Fengwu with disdain, and hadn't even bothered to deal with her. However, after arriving at Peaceful Grassland, it was as if Fengwu had taken a growth potion, and her cultivation had progressed at an incredible speed. Zhuo had never seen anyone cultivate so fast. She began to panic. Every time she saw Fengwu, she would feel both proud and superior. She despised Fengwu, but couldn't stop feeling flustered. In this sort of situation, she had tried her best to cultivate, and had almost suffered from the deviation of her spiritual essence. She used up all the elixirs she had. Finally, she became a level 3 spiritual king. But Fengwu, if the information was right, she was already a level 6 spiritual king. Zhuo took a deep breath and clenched her fists. The blue veins on her forehead and the back of her hands bulged and throbbed. She held a piece of paper in her hand. The paper was soaked with sweat, and the words were blurry. However, Zhuo remembered every word. Should I do it? Zhuo asked herself. She stared at Fengwu from behind. Fengwu was surrounded by Fengsun and Xianyi, and Elder Mu and Elder Yen were fawning over her. Zhuo felt Fengwu had everything, but she had nothing. What did she have to lose? As long as she could kill Fengwu openly, she didn't mind selling her life and dignity to the devil. There was nothing wrong with that. Fengwu, you have a lot of things to do, but the only thing I have to do for the rest of my life is figure out how to kill you. Chapter 3228. 3228 Inscription Girl 4. 3228 Inscription Girl 4. Zhuo took a deep breath and dashed toward the Dalus Woods. Fengwu had no idea of Zhuo's plan. Fengsun carried the giant spirit eagle to her room and put in the inscription bombs as well. Seeing Elder Mu and Elder Yin chasing after them, Fengsun pushed Fengwu in, closed the door with a clang, and locked it from the outside. Fengwu was speechless. She wanted to tell the elders that she actually knew inscriptions. However, Fengsun pushed her so fast that she stumbled and was already inside. Fengwu was speechless. Forget it. Didn't they say the giant spirit eagle had the ability to self-destruct? Who knew when that would happen? Could the Dongseng Kingdom control it and set it off? Fengwu didn't hesitate and went to the hatch of the giant spirit eagle. There was no inscription key. Fengwu recalled the smug look on Mu Yan's face before she left. Earlier, Mu Yan had already been a short distance away, but she still raised her hand to show Fengwu what she was holding. That jade stone was probably the inscription key. Fengwu studied the hatch carefully. It wasn't easy to crack open. She took out the phoenix pen and wrote "open" on the inscription keyhole. To Fengwu's surprise, it didn't open. Even the phoenix pen, which had always been successful, couldn't open this hatch. That was interesting. Sitting cross-legged in front of the hatch, Fengwu examined it inch by inch. Sure enough, there were complicated inscriptions around it. They were strange words spread out in a mandala pattern. It was an invisible pattern that ordinary people wouldn't notice. Feng Wu searched her mind for the inscription information her beautiful master had forced her to read. Soon she found it. When she was a child, her beautiful master had taught her a lot of things and stuffed a lot of information into her head. Feng Wu couldn't understand many of them back then, but according to her beautiful master, she should just memorize them all. Hence, Feng Wu memorized so many things until she thought her hair would fall out. God knew how many strange things she had memorized. The things she had painstakingly memorized were stored in her mind like stars. They were usually dim, but when Feng Wu searched through her memories, she could extract anything useful instantly. Feng Wu was curious. How much did her beautiful master know? It seemed there was nothing in the world that he didn't know. The flying machines were called giant spirit eagles in the Dongxing Kingdom, but according to the information her beautiful master had given her, it was called a fighter jet. Feng Wu studied the fighter jet. According to the information, this fighter jet was called a two-winged fighter jet. This was because it had two upper and lower wings, and in the middle was the cockpit where the pilot sat. Feng Wu took a closer look and saw that the two-winged fighter jet was made of wood covered with iron sheets. Why was it like that? Why wasn't it solid iron? Wasn't iron more durable? The information Feng Wu had memorized told her that the propeller, which had an inscription on it, couldn't carry too much weight. It had been wood only in the beginning, and the current fighter jet was already considered an improvement. Moreover, only one person could sit inside. Any more weight, and the jet wouldn't be able to take off. As for the hatch, Feng Wu also found a line of inscription numbers on it. She wrote those numbers with the phoenix pen, and the hatch opened. Feng Wu crawled inside. Chapter 3229, 3229 Inscription Girl 5. 3229 Inscription Girl 5. Sitting in the hard cockpit seat, Feng Wu quickly examined the fuselage. What her beautiful master asked her to memorize were the most difficult words and numbers. Because her beautiful master didn't have a physical body back then, he couldn't find her such a high-end fighter jet. Therefore, Feng Wu had never touched a real fighter jet before. However, being a secret agent in her previous life, how could she not know the structure of a fighter jet? It was part of her training, and she had to take exams on it. Feng Wu sometimes felt the technology here was similar to the modern technology she remembered. However, the machines here were driven by inscriptions, which seemed to be the fuel for everything. The aircraft had a wingspan of 10 m and a length of 9 m. The size of its wingspan was nearly 20 square meters, and it was mainly powered by propellers. Feng Wu knew the jet had two sets of wings, because the inscription propeller wasn't big enough to provide enough power with a single set of wings. Hence, two sets of wings were needed to increase the lift. Feng Wu knew a lot about modern fighter jets, and her beautiful master had given her a lot of information about fighter jets here. It wasn't difficult for her to understand this first-generation, double-winged wooden propeller fighter jet. The only thing she needed to study was the inscription propeller. As long as she could understand it thoroughly, all problems would be solved. Other than the inscription propeller, nothing else would be a problem for the Zhenwu Empire. To prevent the double-winged wooden propeller jet from self-destructing, Feng Wu began to disassemble it. She first removed the upper and lower wings, then the fuselage. After that she dismantled the jet. She was very fast. In less than 15 minutes, the jet was completely dismantled and turned into a pile of iron sheets, wood and various components. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Feng Wu stared at the inscription propeller and carefully studied the inscriptions inch by inch. This was a very complicated inscription pattern. It was both an inscription and a spiritual formation. Everything was tangled in a complicated way. If she wanted to analyze it, she had to figure out the inscription and formation first. Feng Wu finally understood why the Zhenwu Empire didn't have any fighter jets. The main obstacle was the inscription pattern on the inscription propeller. The pattern was too complicated. Even though she was a level 8 inscription master and formation master, She still felt dizzy after looking at it for a while. This wasn't something that could be solved overnight. However, once it was solved, the Zhengwu Empire would become much more powerful. Feng Wu and her friends were all members of the Zhengwu Empire. She had to do what she could to bring honor to the empire. She took out a microscope she had made herself and pointed it at the inscription pattern. She then carefully drew it on hard bamboo paper. What she didn't know was while she was studying the propeller, the people outside were already in an uproar. The main participants were Elder Mu and Elder Yan. They were exasperated when Feng Sun stopped them from going into the room. Feng Sun and Xianyi guarded the door, and the two elders couldn't get past them. When the elders tried to reason with the two young lords, the latter insisted the jet belonged to Feng Wu, and no one could take it away without her permission. The two elders were speechless. Usually, they couldn't stop quarreling, but now, the two of them actually joined forces and vented their anger at the same target. Chapter 3230. 3230 Head of Magical Equipment Division 1. 3230 Head of Magical Equipment Division 1. Elder Yin didn't like that idea. Mr. Su was the head of the military academy and had always had a condescending manner. He hardly ever spoke to someone like Elder Yin. Moreover, Elder Yin felt he was betraying Feng Wu. Yan Han held Elder Yan's arm and said sweetly, "Grandpa, when will that jet self-destruct?" Before Elder Yin could say anything, Elder Mu bellowed, "We don't know when that'll happen. I think the Dongseng Kingdom can control it. It may explode right now." Elder Yin gave Yan Han a stern look. "Why are you still here? Go back to your place." Yan Han said, "But Grandpa," Elder Yin said sternly, "it's none of your business. Leave." After scolding Yan Han, Elder Yin reminded her, "Don't talk to Feng Wu in that way anymore. Understood?" Yan Han was furious. How could her grandfather say that? Feng Wu was such a selfish person. Yan Han was just pointing out the truth. What was wrong with that? "I'm your granddaughter, not her." Yan Han stormed off. Elder Yin was infuriated. Before he could say anything, Elder Mu dragged him away. "Let's talk to Mr. Su." That wasn't as easy as it sounded. However, Mr. Su was Elder Mu's direct superior, so Elder Mu eventually got to meet Mr. Su, who was still cultivating. This had better be important. Mr. Su was displeased. Chapter 3231. 3231 Head of Magical Equipment Division 2. 3231 Head of Magical Equipment Division 2. This had better be important. Mr. Su was displeased. These people were disturbing him while he was cultivating. Elder Mu immediately told Mr. Su what Feng Wu had done. Of course, Elder Mu's description was biased. According to him, Feng Wu was being unreasonable, and she was fooling around without considering the bigger picture. Elder Yin wanted to interrupt several times, but he was stopped by Elder Mu's gaze. Mr. Su frowned. "A giant spirit eagle? Isn't that the Dongseng Kingdom's fighter jet? Is it intact?" Elder Mu nodded. "Yes. Without a scratch." Mr. Su was capable of obtaining a fighter jet, but he couldn't do that. The Zhengwu Empire and the Dongseng Kingdom were at a stalemate right now. If he did something, that balance would be broken. Therefore, Mr. Su couldn't make any reckless moves. Elder Mu looked at Mr. Su expectantly. Elder Yin couldn't help but interject. Feng Wu won the fighter jet, so... Elder Mu glared at Elder Yin. Was he an idiot? Why did he bring that up now? I don't care who won it. It belongs to the Zhengwu Empire. Shut up, Mr. Su frowned and waved at them. Get out. Elder Mu stared at him in disbelief. Get out. What did Mr. Su mean? Feng Wu's fighter jet. Mr. Su stared at Elder Mu and asked coldly, "Are you asking me to rob a girl?" Elder Mu said, "No, of course not." Beads of cold sweat trickled down Elder Mu's forehead. He realized Mr. Su was angry. No one could afford the rage of a spiritual saint. Go away. Mr. Su flicked his sleeves. Elder Mu and Elder Yin were wrapped in the cold wind and thrown out of the door. Elder Mu was speechless. So was Elder Yin. The two elders looked at each other. How did that happen? Is Mr. Su not going to get involved? Elder Yin asked. He worked under Mr. Lu and didn't know Mr. Su well. However, Elder Mu had worked with Mr. Su for years. That shouldn't have happened. Elder Mu rubbed his temples. He had seen with his own eyes how much Mr. Su cared about the fighter jets. The first master in the magical equipment division knew a few things about fighter jets. Because of that, he became Mr. Su's favorite person. No matter what that master did, Mr. Su wouldn't object to it. That was how important the fighter jets were to Mr. Su. But now, the magical equipment division is in urgent need of an intact fighter jet. So I thought. Elder Mu was confused. He thought Mr. Su would take away Feng Wu's fighter jet by force and send it to the magical equipment division. Mr. Su was in charge of the entire magical equipment division. The Zhengwu Empire was in desperate need of fighter jets. The first person to build one could become a general right away. Let's go take another look. Elder Mu wouldn't give up. He grabbed Elder Yin and ran toward Feng Wu. Meanwhile, Mr. Su thought of Master Duanmu, who had sent him a letter a few days ago. I'm at the final stage of my research. Need an intact fighter jet ASAP. Mr. Su frowned. He got up and headed for the general's residence. Chapter 3232, 3232 Emergency 1. 3232 Emergency 1. Feng Wu had been trying hard to understand this fighter jet. The Zhengwu Empire could build the frame, but it was extremely difficult to make the inscription propeller. Even for Feng Wu, who had the Phoenix Pen and was a level 8 inscription and formation master, it was still impossible to build one. For now, she could only transcribe all the formations and inscriptions and work on them later. Not everybody could do that, because one had to be at least a level 8 inscription master to accurately transcribe them. Halfway through, she heard a knock on the door. Feng Wu frowned and opened the door to find Elder Hellion outside. What? Feng Wu frowned. She had told them no to disturb her. Elder Hellion said, Mr. Lu is injured. Xiao Wu, help him now. Mr. Lu. Feng Wu and Mr. Lu were quite close. Mr. Lu had taken special care of her in the past, so Feng Wu felt obligated to help him. She said, all right. Turning around, Feng Wu locked the door and drew a lock with the Phoenix Pen. Inside were the important inscriptions on the propeller, which Feng Wu hadn't finished copying yet. She would have to study them later. After locking the door, Feng Wu went to see Mr. Lu with Elder Hellion. Feng Wu looked grim when she saw Mr. Lu. Not many people were here, and all of them were influential members of the Zhengwu Empire. The general and Mr. Su were both there. What's wrong? Feng Wu arrived in a hurry. When Mr. Su turned around and saw Feng Wu, he frowned and questioned Elder Hellion. Where's Dongfang Ziyan? When Elder Hellion said he would fetch someone, Mr. Su thought he meant Dongfang Ziyan. To his surprise, Feng Wu arrived. Why was Dongfang Ziyan so arrogant? Because she was the only supreme-level medicine refiner. She could talk directly to the schoolmasters. That was why she was so desperate when she heard Feng Wu was a semi-divine medicine refiner. Feng Wu had robbed her of her fame. With a semi-divine medicine refiner around, why would anyone go to a supreme-level medicine refiner? But the big bosses were busy handling the Dongseng Kingdom and had no idea that Feng Wu was a semi-divine medicine refiner. Feng Wu had demonstrated her skills to the elders, but all the elders thought the others had told the three bosses. As a result, none of the three knew this piece of information. For instance, Elder Hellion had no idea that the general and Mr. Lu didn't know Feng Wu was a semi-divine medicine refiner. Therefore, Elder Hellion was amazed when Mr. Su mentioned Dongfang Ziyun. Dongfang Ziyun? Why do we need her? Feng Wu is the best medicine refiner here. When Elder Hellion was a peak spiritual overlord, he didn't dare speak to Mr. Su in this way, But they were both spiritual saints now. Although Elder Hellion was still a junior one, he was much more confident. He pushed Feng Wu forward. Xiao Wu, help Mr. Lu. Nobody knew what happened to Mr. Lu, but he kept vomiting blood, and his eyes were also bloodshot red. Both were bad signs. It happened so suddenly that everybody was taken by surprise. At that moment, Chapter 3233, 3233 Emergency 2. 3233 Emergency 2. Feng Wu nodded at Elder Hellion and was going to check Mr. Lu's pulse. Nonsense. Mr. Su stared at Feng Wu. What do you know about medicine? Who gave you permission? Elder Hellion was furious. Mr. Su, lower your voice. Xiao Wu is a semi-divine medicine refiner, and much better than your Dongfang Ziyun. If she can't treat Mr. Lu, no one can. Elder Hellion glared at Mr. Su and wouldn't give in. A semi-divine medicine refiner. Mr. Su's calm eyes were filled with surprise. Everyone knew what it meant to be a semi-divine medicine refiner. Just like the flying fighter jets, they were scarce. A semi-divine level medicine refiner was even more precious than the inscription technique for a flying fighter jet. Hellion, you. Elder Hellion said. Can she give herself the strength of a semi-divine medicine refiner? Xiao Wu personally refined a semi-divine spirit liquid in front of Elder Dongfang. What didn't Elder Dongfang tell you? Although Elder Hellion had already broken through to the Spirit Saint stage, he was still an elder of Imperial College and one level lower than Mr. Su. Mr. Su's eyes flickered as he studied Feng Wu. He couldn't imagine how this girl could be a semi-divine medicine refiner. Meanwhile, Feng Wu had already checked Mr. Lu's pulse. Mr. Lu's pulse was heavy and urgent. It was like sand being swept up by a torrent. Everything was falling apart, and it was exceptionally dangerous. While she was checking his pulse, the general kept staring at her in confusion. Was this girl really a semi-divine medicine refiner? It was probably a misunderstanding. What's wrong with Mr. Lu? Mr. Su stared at Feng Wu with a dark look in his eyes. Feng Wu said, It's just an old illness. Just, she said just. After some thought, Feng Wu took out some silver needles and inserted 13 of them into Mr. Lu's chest. Each needle was placed so accurately that even Mr. Su had to admit that he couldn't have done better. As soon as an expert made a move, one would know. Feng Wu only needed 13 needles to stabilize Mr. Su. Mr. Su wasn't the only one who was surprised. The general also looked at Feng Wu in surprise. After the 13 needles were inserted, Feng Wu waved her hand, and the ends of the needles rose and fell like a wave of wheat. An invisible electric current flowed from her fingertips into the silver needles, and then into Mr. Lu's acupoints. Throughout the entire process, Mr. Su and the general watched in amazement. The trembling of the silver needles ended after 15 minutes. Mr. Lu, who had been sweating profusely, had already calmed down. It was as if he had fallen asleep. His breathing was no longer heavy and short. Instead, it had become light and long. Anyone with eyes could tell that Mr. Lu's condition had improved. Mr. Su stared at Feng Wu. Are you really a semi-divine medicine refiner? Feng Wu grinned at him. Didn't Elder Dongfang tell you? Feng Wu took the opportunity to make Elder Dongfang look bad. Mr. Su's expression froze. Feng Wu smiled. She's seen me make semi-divine pills twice. She's not going to deny it, is she? Mr. Su's expression remained the same, but Feng Wu knew he was going to teach Elder Dongfang a lesson when he got back. At that moment, the general waved at Feng Wu. Kiddo, come here. Feng Wu ran to him eagerly. He was her godfather, and she wanted to cozy up to him. The general looked at her in amazement. Chapter 3234. 3234 Semi-Divine Healing Pill 1. 3234 Semi-Divine Healing Pill 1. This girl had already demonstrated her luck, powerful cultivation ability, and medical skills. God knew what kind of surprises she would bring in the future. The general wasn't too shocked, because nothing could shock him anymore after watching Jun Linyuan grow up. However, this girl in front of him was the only one who could surprise him like that after all these years. I heard you ran away with a fighter jet? The general asked casually. What was that? Who had gossiped to her godfather? Feng Wu glanced back at Mr. Su and snorted inwardly. Not many people could get close enough to the general to talk about such things. She said, I won the fighter jet myself. If I don't take it with me, am I supposed to give it to someone else? The girl's voice was soft and cute. It sounded especially pleasant in the night wind. What could the general do? He patted Feng Wu's head. Kiddo, you do know it's a weapon of the empire. Feng Wu tilted her head. I do. The general said. Our inscription masters and formation masters are all researching fighter jets. If we have this one. Feng Wu's eyes twinkled. I'm working on it too. The general thought of her phoenix pen and fell silent. The girl was indeed correct. She was absolutely extraordinary in inscriptions. Did Master Ling Hu teach you inscriptions? The general was curious since Master Ling Hu had never mentioned this. Feng Wu shook her head. The general was about to ask, but Feng Wu said, My master is even more powerful than Master Ling Hu. The general was curious. Who is your master? Feng Wu said solemnly, Well, I can't tell you yet. Her master had asked her to keep it a secret. When the general saw the unprecedented serious expression on her face, he couldn't help but smile and pat her head. All right, if you can figure it out, it'll be a great achievement. I'm looking forward to it. Feng Wu said confidently, Don't worry. I'll figure it out soon. The general was about to say something when his eyes narrowed. Feng Wu felt a chill run down her spine. What was going on? In the next moment the general, who had never revealed his emotions, patted Feng Wu's head and turned to the house. Su Yan, Helian Li, follow me. In an instant, Mr. Su's expression turned solemn. He didn't say anything else. Elder Helian had never experienced this before, and he was a little confused, but he had some idea of what was going on. So his expression turned solemn. The general told Feng Wu, Help Mr. Lu. The next moment the general, Mr. Su and Elder Helian all disappeared on the spot. Feng Wu was speechless. They left in such a hurry. What happened? Feng Wu had no idea what was going on, but she knew it was an emergency. When Mr. Lu woke up, it was already the next morning. Feng Wu stayed by Mr. Lu's side the entire day and night. When Mr. Lu woke up, he was still in disbelief. I actually survived this time. A bitter smile appeared on Mr. Lu's face. Feng Wu frowned at him. Your old wounds are already very serious. Aren't you going to treat them? She had never known a person so badly injured. Mr. Lu's meridians and blood vessels had aged very severely, as if he was an old hero in his twilight years. This shouldn't have happened. Mr. Lu looked at Feng Wu in silence. Chapter 3235. 3235 Semi-Divine Healing Pill, 2. 3235 Semi-Divine Healing Pill, 2. Because he had been unconscious, he didn't know that Feng Wu had saved his life. Mr. Lu asked, How long have I been unconscious? Feng Wu said, You've been unconscious since last night. Last night. Mr. Lu calculated the time, and his expression turned ugly. He grabbed his black gold combat boots and put them on. His valiant appearance made him look like he was going for a duel. Where are you going? Feng Wu looked displeased. Mr. Lu shook his head. A child like you shouldn't be concerned with that. What you should do is cultivate and strive to break through. You have to become stronger as soon as possible. With that, Mr. Lu was about to rush out. Do you want to die? Feng Wu stared at Mr. Lu and enunciated each word. Your meridians are aging severely. Under normal circumstances, a spiritual saint shouldn't be like this. You have been taking semi-divine healing pills, right? Mr. Lu turned around and stared at her with his dark eyes. Semi-divine healing pills? How did she know that? Feng Wu asked. Are you terminally ill? Mr. Lu's back stiffened. He stared at her with cold eyes. Suddenly he forced a smile. What are you talking about? Feng Wu stared at him solemnly and said in a serious tone. When I checked your pulse last night, I knew you were using semi-divine healing pills to extend your life, but neither the general nor Mr. Su knew about it. Therefore, I didn't tell anyone else about this. You and I are the only ones. Mr. Lu stared at her without saying anything. Feng Wu asked, You only have less than a year left, right? Mr. Lu's pupils contracted, and he was ready to attack. However, he quickly realized Feng Wu was the daughter of the general, and definitely not a spy of the Dongseng kingdom. That was why he didn't make a move. It was a critical piece of information. If the Dongseng nation knew about this, who knew what they would do? Feng Wu looked at him. Doesn't the general know? Mr. Lu said. The general knows a little, but he doesn't know it's so serious. Feng Wu said, Have you thought about this? If you die, the situation on peaceful grassland will change drastically. Mr. Lu gave her a warning look. That's exactly why we can't let anyone else know. Feng Wu asked, But what will happen a year from now? Mr. Lu's expression suddenly softened. Fortunately, your all-purpose liquid helped Hellion advance to the Spirit Saint stage. Feng Wu said, He just entered that stage. Can he replace you? Mr. Lu fell silent. He looked at the first rays of dawn on the horizon and suddenly smiled. When I'm gone, someone will eventually grow up. Are you willing to leave this world? Feng Wu looked at Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu smiled bitterly. Life and death are determined by fate. Riches and honor are determined by the heavens. My lifespan has reached its limit. He was at the peak of the Spirit Saint stage. Who would have thought he would have a terminal illness? He had no choice but to give in to his fate. I can only blame myself for focusing on cultivating my stages back then, and neglecting the cultivation of my physical body. Mr. Lu smiled bitterly. The ancient saying is right. Cultivating one's spirit and not one's body is the #1 illness of cultivation. Mr. Lu chuckled. I only wanted to improve my cultivation, so I often cultivated in seclusion. I forgot about my physical strength. Therefore, my advancement speed was extremely fast. From time to time, I would even advance 2 levels in a row. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.